We're live.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Plat Valorant episode 209. TMV just had, like, I don't know, an ice cream put down his underwear or something. He's got the YouTuber face that makes it look like something very surprising and shocking just happened to him. Give us a sound effect as well that would go with that, TMV.
Yeah.
Ooh!
Perfect.
Can you imagine if you were allowed to put a little sound effect with all of the YouTube thumbnails? So, like, as you're scrolling past, you get a little,
just a little
like
2-second clip.
Yeah, it could be incredible. It could be incredible. Akilios Chobra TMV, thanks for joining us. We're going to talk about China actually today because they were the first region to kick off. We're going to talk a little bit about Pacific. We're going to talk a bit about Americas as well when we bring on Mimi and Dryad later on too. EMEA don't feel like it this week, actually.
Well, they don't feel like it. Blame them, really.
That's true. Lazy.
They don't feel like playing. We won't talk about them.
Lazy region with strong unions and good workers' rights, so they never have to work. That's the problem with Europe. Okay. Yeah, let's
get Tory talk already.
I know, it's tragic, isn't it? Well, from one Tory to another, TMV's actually paid an extravagant amount of money, an unbelievable, sickening amount of money for an advert on this show. So TMV, I'm going to give the floor to you because you've got a premium product to showcase. Wow.
Yes, this is my premium product. Well, it's not a premium product just yet. It's in its beta phase of the Valorant Fantasy League. Now, this hasn't been fully released just yet. It will hopefully be released, I'm thinking Wednesday. And
you got some work to do before Wednesday.
No, this is just a demo. This is just a demo version. Okay. So don't look at the look bench passes in there. Like, you know, this is just a demo of things that is that's just right now. But
can you look up Lakia? Is Lakia still on the
Can we look up
database?
Lakia?
This is a video.
This is a video. I thought this was Kurt operating it.
No. This is just a demo of some of the things that will be in there. If you have never played a fantasy game of a fantasy sport before, I'm sure some of you will be familiar with the concept, but the idea is, have you ever found yourself watching C9 versus Furia and wondering, why the hell am I watching C9 versus Furia? I don't care about this game at all. If you've ever found yourself thinking that, the idea is that, you know, you play a fantasy game to have players, and it's completely free, so that you care, right? Maybe Oxy is in your fantasy team, and then so there you have a rooting interest for the game. So this is completely free. It will hopefully come out on Wednesday. It will be hopefully a lot of fun. As I say, this is the beta version, so there's still some kinks to work out. EMEA have also screwed me in this, because by not starting correctly at the correct time, we've had to jig things around and kind of give EMA their own week at the end, because otherwise there would be no time in between games, essentially. So
it would just be pointless, to pick up any EMEA team ever, because they'd all be getting less points.
Yeah, so...
is there ever a point, though, in picking up an EMEA player? Bad region.
Some of them will do, yes. Some of them will do fine, I'm sure. But yeah, this will be for Pacific, EMEA, and Americas. China isn't involved because we're using the VLR API, so VLR is how we're calculating the points, and the China stuff doesn't have all like the same things.
I think VLR, you should add them and just manually calculate it all yourself.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that.
Well, who made the prices for the players? Because whenever I see, like, occasionally people do the, like, on the Reddit or something, they're like, pick a team that's worth $15.
Yeah.
But they set the prices themselves, and sometimes they've just absolutely broken it because they set somebody, like, way too low. How do you set the prices of these players?
Well, I found the most knowledgeable person I know.
You didn't get in touch with me?
Scenes. No, I didn't talk to you. I talked to myself. I did it. I set the prices for the players, okay? And I did this not just from me. I also worked off what their points would be during kickoff, and therefore, you know, kind of came up with a system that, you know, accurately represents kind of.
But those points were also set by you.
Yeah,
so this does explain a lot. This explains a lot on why the Pacific players are so cheap to win with, because they're just never getting the respect they deserve.
No, you're wrong. Although I did have to, after Bangkok, I did have to increase all the T1 prices of the players, because I definitely was a T1 doubter going in, and I was like, I can't have Meteor not being very expensive. That just wouldn't work, would it? But yes, please go and play. It should hopefully be live later this week. I will make, you know, video on my channel talking about, going through it, giving a beginner's guide. If you've never played fantasy before, I promise you will enjoy it. I promise it's an enjoyable experience. It's free to play. There is no shady backroom deals like there will be in some of the things we're going to talk about later in this episode. It's just me and a bunch of Discord people from my Discord, so it's all good.
Okay, excellent. Well, glad we got that one sorted. Hashtag ad. TMV will not sell your information.
I don't know if I trust him.
But I could.
Yeah. When you sign up, TMV asks for your social security number just to make sure. He's like, we need this to process the payouts.
It says price of player 11, but that's 11 CS:GO crates that you have to trade to him.
Well, let's talk about the people who are sponsoring our episode with actual cash then, because TMV, we haven't received any money for that advert. That was just out of the goodness of our hearts.
Oh, that check bounce? No, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
TMV didn't sell enough people's information yet.
I need their information. The payment will come with their info later.
Okay, fair enough. But this episode is brought to you by Factor. Appreciate the people at Factor Meals. They're one of the people that allows us to be able to do this podcast every week. If you're unaware of them at this point, they have chef-made gourmet meals that make eating well very easy. They talk about them being dietitian approved, ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes. Basically, the long and short of it is that they will deliver you food that's able to just throw into whatever you use to heat stuff up. I don't know if you're using a stove, whether you're using an Arga, if you're like TMV, or whether you're using a microwave. But they can. But you can get hot food very quickly, much cheaper than ordering takeout all the time if that's what your go-to is, and they have tons of different options for you as well. So you can eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/factorpodcast and use code FACTORPODCAST to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. And that's that is code FACTORPODCAST at factormeals.com/factorpodcast to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Take a look. It might end up being a lot cheaper than, I don't know, whatever quail eggs and...
Well, you wouldn't know, would you, Saitra? You wouldn't know what things generally
cost. What can a banana cost? $20?
$20? You don't know that your butler is actually using Factor Meals already.
Yes.
You're just not aware.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, what am I paying that guy for anyway? I need to fire Bren. I must make sure I remember that. Okay. So our members this week, every week our members are able to send in a question. I can't even remember what the question was last week, but this week we got a slight...
He really cares about the community, guys. He really appreciates every single one of you.
Well, no, because the reason that it's bothered me is because I released a video talking about cornbread, and somebody atted me in the members Discord of Plat chat, like full on atted me, which I didn't even realize was possible. So I'm getting pings like while I'm outside in the real world touching grass, talking, and they're telling me I'm not allowed to have opinions on things because Britain eats jellied eels. TMV, have you ever eaten a jellied eel?
I've never eaten a jellied eel.
What is a jellied eel?
I'm not even necessarily...
I mean, I could tell what it is based on the name, but...
Well, it's an eel. You start off with an eel.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Enlightening. Tell me more.
I don't know what happens to it
afterwards,
I don't know what happens. It gets covered in jelly or gets jellied. But apparently this is a British food. Now, I've never heard of anyone.
I think it's a southern thing, to be fair. But the Southerns are very delicacy. They're a strange folk.
They are strange folk. Let's get into it. Anyway, that's a complete tangent. The member question for this week was, what sport would VCT teams be best at? What sport would be the best for the average VC team to perform in? What skills from Valorant are most transferable to sports? Could Paper X go crazy in some crazy run-it-down American football? They'd get destroyed. They are tiny men.
No, yeah.
Would G2 have a calculated basketball offense? And it does say, assume the VCT pros would have a good body type for the sport.
Okay. Oh, wait, what? Oh,
so yeah. So
I mean, that breaks all the fantasy.
Around as a little 5'7".
Oh.
And we do have some people that used to be at least at like the thinking about going pro in some sports.
Yeah.
I know, for example, that Alpha was going to go into like professional level or semi-pro Turkish basketball, I believe, before he decided to go into Valorant full time. And wasn't there somebody that was doing like badminton? I feel like
am I making that up? That were doing soccer and football for sure.
I know Rossi was trained in MMA fighting.
Was he?
Yeah,
Wow.
dude, have you ever stood next to that guy? His reach is insane. He's like 6'6".
He is
He's
very
built he's built like a brick shithouse, and he could punch you from a mile away.
The chat is saying that Chronicle used to do swimming.
Yeah,
to,
somebody
like,
was a swimmer. It must have been
yeah,
Chronicle. Yeah.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
a pro. That's right. Yeah, he used to do swimming.
But
TMV,
honestly,
oh, go on, Joe.
I'm gonna go ahead and say it's curling. I think there'll be a curling. Yeah, the lineup Larrys will show up. All the Sovas will know exactly what to do. They'll be the IGLs, and they'll get all the points.
Surely,
I
I forget the name of the sport, but like pistol shot, where the Turkish guy got really famous at the Olympics as well as the Korean woman. You
Some
know,
sort of
translate some of
shooting
that
event,
aim in
yes,
game
shooting.
to aim in real life.
I mean,
Do
I
they-
put in the document DRG wife carrying for Vukushu just carrying.
Sorry,
That sport is
all
crazy, by the way. That's a crazy.
that's
it's
not a
great.
sport.
I mean, like, look, I know we've
What do you
had
have to do, like a
problems with
relay
the
race
cheese
while
rolling stuff
carrying your
before.
wife?
Kurt, it's up to you whether you want to play the video. I don't know if it will get you,
There's no way this gets you
copyrighted.
What do you
demonetized.
mean? This is a real sport.
I mean, the downhill cheese rolling got
Yeah, the cheese
them
rolling got them,
demonetized.
so. But I don't think this is as
Oh.
protected as the cheese rolling. But this is a sport, Josh. Yeah, you carry your wife.
Does it have to be your wife? Surely, like,
don't know.
How can you stop people from participating? Like that would incentivize people to get married just to be good at the sport.
I mean, Korea could use that. So
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. In fact, can we be carrying your wife who's carrying a child? Like, can we just really bring this sport together?
And also, I guess my second follow-up question would be: do the wives are also a pretty important part of that? So do they get joint kind of responsibility?
He's got two wives! He's got 2 wives! Is that allowed? Is that allowed in, like, society?
This sport promotes polygamy.
It doesn't promote polygamy. It's the
No,
opposite.
yeah,
Surely it
that's
promotes
harder.
monogamy.
It's harder.
It's way more difficult. Like, you could train polygamously, though, and then you'd be much better.
There's probably like a polygamous division then that like all the Mormons compete in, and then everybody else competes in the other one.
I want to see. One of the sports that I have most wanted to see people compete in, and not just wanted to see. I want to compete in it myself as well. Have you seen the Indian sport of kabaddi, where they're like running into the other zone, tagging them, and then trying to get out without getting grappled?
I think I have seen that. Yeah.
It's so good. It's like infinite amounts of fun.
Yeah, that one seems very fun.
And it also
sounds like
looks
something
like
that I would just end up getting hurt doing somehow, but.
Dude,
It would be very fun to play.
It looks
Yeah.
so fun, honestly. I was trying to persuade my family to play it. My dad's 72. He was like, I think I'll die. It's so good.
wow,
Man.
yeah, that's
It's so
intense.
good. I want to one person that would be good in the sport that you know, TMV, football. Who's the best footballer?
Best footballer.
Who's got the best mind for football? Who's the Messi of our generation?
Well, that's the thing. Messi was quite mercurial, really. I mean, it probably would have to be. Let's just go off, stereotypes here. To be fair, it would probably be someone Brazilian, or Argentinian. It'd probably be a South American player, because let's be real.
Aspas?
Yeah,
Maybe
it could be
Aspas?
Aspas. Yeah, he's
He's limber. Looks like he would have some
the look
speed.
of it. Yeah,
Okay.
it kind of has the look, Aspas, to be honest.
And then Seth, aren't you a fencing guy?
I mean, like forever ago, yeah.
Who've you
I
got
mean,
your eye on for
the obvious
fencing?
choice for this would be Kong Kong because
Yeah.
he literally was a fencer.
Was he?
So
Yeah.
that's why he has the wrist tape so much. I believe is because he had like injuries while he was fencing.
Damn.
But yeah, I haven't fenced since I was like 15, 16 or something like
Oh,
that.
I'd love to see you getting cut up by Kang Kang. Not in a literal sense. I don't want to see.
Dude,
I don't want to see him do any damage to you, but I'd love to see a fencing 1v1.
I was pretty good, but I know that he would fuck me up. Like he just has way more agility than I would have. Like I would get absolutely destroyed.
God, I'd love.
Maybe if
to
we're doing like saber, I could hold it with hold it. But if we're doing like foil, then I would just get absolutely bodied.
One of the things I've wanted to do the most when we go to Masters events is actually do like sports stuff against the pros, but the pros will never want to compete in sports stuff for content reasons because the chance of injury is just way too high. Like,
Yeah, but
almost all
doesn't-
sports involve some
Doesn't
kind of like
VCT
ritual.
China do like tug of war and like frisbee and stuff during their orientation? I'm pretty sure they've done like little orientation camps before each year or each stage where all the teams go and they have to like mix teams and play like
That'd be
mini
amazing.
games with sports.
I haven't
Yeah.
seen it, but I'd love to watch. Yeah.
You know, I was talking to Alex during kickoff because, like, from Paper X, because like he's a very avid skier, French background, guy knows how to ski. He's incredibly good at it. And I was telling him like, oh yeah, you should come along on a snowboard trip with us sometime. And I ended up going snowboarding with Victoria. And he's like, oh yeah, you know, I really wanted to take the team out and go snowboard. And I'm like, what are you fucking thinking? Are you joking? You want to take them and go snowboarding? They are twigs. They are made of fucking aluminum foil. They will crumple with one fall.
Maybe Alex was just waiting to find an excuse to replace the players.
Got Pat-Man on deck. Something bad's gonna happen to somebody at the top of this black diamond.
Yeah, when they hire Sideshow as their consultant, I'd go skiing. I'd go and
Yeah. Yeah, do it. It'll be a great content opportunity. You should go off piste. They say it's better over there. All right, let's move on then. Let's talk about probably the agent that would be best with skiing, I reckon. They'd be going on absurd jumps. Waylay debuted in China. We actually got to see some Waylay this week. I didn't think we were going to get to see her, especially considering that the Chinese teams were really slow in the pickup of Taeho. They, of course, remember that they weren't able to play Taeho week 1 of kickoff, so maybe it's a little bit of an unfair comparison. But the Waylay pick rate in China has been really quite substantial. 29% pick rate is high. And on some maps, it's like 50%, right? Split, Icebox, Fracture. There's a fair amount of teams are playing her. Now, let's maybe do this a little chronologically, because TMV, the floor is yours to begin, because you put out a video analyzing, I think it was the first 2 matches of Waylay being played. Maybe it was even just the first match.
I think it was just the first one, but yeah.
And your conclusion was, she's shite.
I wouldn't say that's a fair conclusion. I would say that the implementation of this agent, as it often is with agents when they first come out, is shite.
Right. It was like watching the bad teams with Taeho at the beginning of kickoff. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Is it going to get better, though?
Well, I mean, Waylay's nowhere near as good as Taeho, so it will get a bit better. And I think in the other games as we went forward, we did see moments of it like being a bit better. But I found it strange, if I'm being honest. I found it very, very strange that they were playing this much Waylay, because it's not like it's 50% on Fracture. Guys, Raze is really good. Neon is still very good on Fracture. Like, it's not like those agents got nerfed at the same time. I find it very strange you would even, go for this, essentially. Again, we saw moments of Waylay being good. One thing that I do think that sometimes was a problem for these teams is that sometimes you end up, you throw the little bubble thing, you double dash in, you then TP out. The rest of your team hasn't quite got into the rest of the site yet, and so then they feel a little bit scared to go in, and now your duelist has no util, and none of you are in. Like, that did happen a fair few times for a couple different teams, yeah, and, like, that is part of, I think, the problem with this agent, right, is that sometimes you will, and the duelist isn't making a mistake by, when they dash in and like, oh no, I'm in trouble, get out. Like, that is the correct choice, but it leaves you sometimes with just like, nothing. I've got nothing left, and then they're just.
That's what your tenants say to you a lot, is it?
Please, Mr. TMV, have some mercy. I've got nothing left.
Yeah, that was me copying one of my tenants from
Just one more
from the world of Charles Dickens.
Yeah.
Yes.
Please, Governor.
EDG, though, I watched this game. Didn't watch every game in China this week. I think TMV and Trouble, you've been watching a bit more than I have. But this game, I felt like they had definitely cooked up some proper ideas. I'm not sure that this round, I can't remember this round necessarily, whether it demonstrates it, but they were doing a lot of like Halls pressure, where they were throwing out the saturate, throwing the stun, flash, and they were doing a lot of flash and dash kind of stuff around the map. It looked coordinated.
But that round is actually a decent example of what I'm saying there, where Can goes in, and he gets the first kill, but then the other guy who's left on the site is still able to get 3 kills, because he's gone back, and then the rest of the team is slowly kind of coming forward, and then the guy left there still is able to get 3. Now they end up winning the round, as China was just filled with eco rounds. Any eco round was likely to be a win in China this week.
I did write some down though. If you wanted to have a look at round 5, 6, or 7, like any of those had some interesting stuff from Kangkang.
Yeah,
with the Waylay. You could tell that they put some time and thought into it.
Yeah.
But was it actually better than just running arrays or a Neon?
No, but I do think like you said, I think Hong Kong and EDG is the only team that proved that it's easier to execute the same things with Waylay than it is with Raze, right? Because Raze is always the problem of the timing with the blast back. So you have to have a really good race to go like deep, long range executes. Whereas Waylay, like you can just wait and then click, and then you get the same result in terms of actual entry. So I think there is that trade-off, but I just want to add on that I think a lot of the problem was also just solo duelists. That's where a lot of the problems TMV was talking about, is that the Waylay either has to get more kills or everybody has to be ready. But yeah, this is a case where I think the Waylay being able to go all the way into Sands is much easier to time without potentially having like team util accidents or whatever than the Raze. Whereas, you know, the Raze, like, I mean, in the past, like that's why Jing was one of the standout Razes, because no matter what, he could always really make the combos work with Paper X's tempo. But not many teams and Raze players can do that consistently every time in terms of long range executes.
Gotta say, when I first looked at the agent, I didn't realize how long it took her to take her gun out when she finishes dashing.
That's a massive problem, isn't it?
When you play her, it's huge.
It's a problem. Like, it's a genuine problem, because compared to all of the other entry duelists, like Neon, it's instant. Jet has smokes, so it's not a problem for Jet because you're just dashing into the smoke every time. And you know, Raze, because of the way the satchels work, you have your gun out by the time you hit the floor. So like all of the others, it's not a problem. I guess you could say it's a problem for Yoru, but obviously Yoru has massive advantages elsewhere to kind of make up for it. So yeah, it's that instantly, as soon as like after a day of playtesting, I was like, this is just a big issue. That if you like, and I know that the devs will be like, oh well, the point is you can TP out, you know, if you're in trouble. That's the whole point. But again, you end up with that problem of, well, okay, I've you know, TP'd back, and now I've used all my util, and we've got nothing for it, essentially.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch too much of this, but so far I'm just saying, like, trap plays seem really good, but they're also pretty avoidable once you just get enough tape on how a team likes to play in this style. So it just feels like it's not going to be the most reliable thing in the long term.
Yeah,
but
I think it's got good surprise value. Yeah, it's got like good surprise early value, but yeah, you're right. Like long term, I just think Raze is definitely just a better agent.
And also, you get moments like this where it's got nothing to do with the ability.
This is the classic first ace on Waylay.
This was a good little refract here, and then Chichu trades for it long range. Like that, it's not planned. That's not the point of that round. But you can do things like that where there's good trading value. But again, that's either readable or you're not really able to go for the fast hits if you want to play off of trades. So I think it needs a little more time to cook, or you should just play double duelist if you're going to play Waylay.
Did we see any of the teams playing double duelist?
Yes, one, but I don't know if we want to watch that.
Why? Was it terrible?
Yeah, wasn't it? Who was it? It was horrible, wasn't it?
No, it was Titan Esports. They played Neon and Waylay, which I think it was actually a good idea in terms of playing Neon and Waylay. But
they're a horrible team, is what you want to say, Joba.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
Horrible team.
The craziest thing was my biggest fear with this was, okay, Arby's good on Neon because he's good at baiting by twirling in the air.
Scroll off that comp as well. Get that comp away from me as well.
And then you have the Waylay who wants to bait as well. And there was literally a round where they both ran in and they were both jumping around and neither of them were fragging for each other. And then they both died. And it's like, you got to be cleaner about this on who's playing the bait if you want to play that double duelist.
Yeah, that's that I don't know that many teams are going to be copying what Tech are doing in terms of like trying to get to the forefront of the meta. Do you expect the pick rate to go up or down then? It's at 29%. When we see other regions start to wind up as well, are you expecting them to experiment in the same way that China did?
Down. I could see it I think some Pacific teams will definitely play it. I think EMEA tends to be, like they refuse to kind of to do stuff like double dive stuff more,
to be interesting,
I think, than other agents. And they're not playing for a while anyway. Yeah, so yeah, we won't talk about them. In Americas as well. America's is too on meta pill. They're just gonna play Yoru every map.
I can see a couple teams in Pacific picking it up. I mean, we were talking about it like last week. Like I feel like Dam B is somebody who's probably gonna pick up Waylay. I could see May doing it.
Paper X.
Like Paper X potentially. Yeah. Like I could see them. Those kind of like three being the ones that are pretty like ready to do it.
I can see DRX doing it as well, just because they're so set play heavy. So you could do dump just util dumps for Hyunmin,
yes,
and then rely on that.
It feels old Vision Strikers. Like when you're looking at what EDG were doing with it, the flash and dash stuff, that was Vision Strikers to a T. But you have to land the util perfectly on the person you're trying to kill, and then it's so orchestrated. I don't know. It does feel kind of like winding the clock back to 2021. With these kind of plays. And that style never did end up being meta. Like, we never actually had a team that was best in the world that was defined by flash and dashing, even though it's always been a good strategy to, like, weave in there occasionally with your game.
I did just see a comment in the chat, so it's not an original thought, but somebody mentioned that you do have Sonic out there. What if he just
Common
Core?
What if he just goes for it, or Angel?
Oh wait, honestly, Martine has been so Yoru pilled. It would be so funny if they went full Waylay pill now.
Waylay Phoenix, I can see them pulling that out. I can see the Waylay Phoenix.
If someone plays Waylay Phoenix, shut it down. Shut it down.
Does anyone go for a triple duelist? Do we go back to the Talon split of 2023, but with Waylay?
Dude, Cruz plays Waylay to bait for Primi, and then Primi just comes out and trades on Deadlock. That's the plan for Talon.
Yeah. I could see them doing that if they still had Governor there, just sending him in on Waylay. But I don't know enough about Kalua or Thai. I don't know how selflessly they play. I assume they're not as crazy as Governor was, putting his body on the line all the time.
Well, Frost would probably say to Governor, "No, you can't use your signature and TP out. No, you stay. you must die.
You die for the team. You die for the cause."
Yeah. All right, let's talk about some of the other quick China games that happened then. We're going to do a bit of a China recap. It's the first week. We've seen some good games and some shit games too. This one was actually a shit game, but better performance from the team that won than I was anticipating. Now, I didn't watch this. I was busy on that day, but I've got to... The title of this is
true.
FPX impressed with an IGL who can't mid-round, and I don't mean that as an insult to the IGL.
Can you add in my bracket spot as well?
Well, your bracket, you wanted us to make the headline. FPX impressed with an IGL who can't mid-round. In parentheses, 5 Titan Esports club members found drowned in a glue bath. That's look what happens when we try to put it in. That doesn't work. But literally he can't mid-round. In the sense of, like, the guy who is now IGLing for FPX since Berlin left is Autumn, who doesn't speak Chinese well enough to be able to handle the mid-rounding. So we're not saying Autumn is too stupid or whatever to mid-round, or that his mid-rounding is bad. That isn't his job as the IGL. He's calling the pre-round stuff, and then Yosemite is calling the mid-round stuff, but calling it first in English so that Autumn can understand, and then second in Chinese so that the rest of the team can understand. And yet, it working?
Against tech, anything.
I was going to say, it is against tech.
Yeah, that said, FPX were pretty decent. They actually, both things are true.
I did think that you guys, we were a little bit harsh on FPX. And I get why. I think it's understandable. But I just had, like, this feeling that this team is still going to, like, surprise and shock us with how strong they are. Because I feel like the core is just overall really good. And I can see Autumn having really good ideas for, like, just kind of macro play, like, round over round. So I felt like they were a little bit lower ranked than where I would have put them personally when we did the global power ranking. But
we did knock them down a lot compared to, like, where we would have rated the previous roster and what they did last year and that kind of stuff. We were quite harsh on them because of the roster change and the IGL questions.
I felt like they were lower than they should have been, and Liquid was higher than they should be. Those are my 2 takeaways.
But also they've played against Tech right now, so it might be too early to gloat.
But I do think the way they were playing was very 2024 Gen.G-esque in that it's very simple. It's flowcharty, right? You're going for info, you get contact, you draw the information from that, and then you make sure you rotate to the place where you're going to have a numbers advantage. But what impressed me about that was not just the idea of it, but they were quick. Like, they were quick on their rotations. Like, it was as if they just had an entire, like, 1,000-page playbook downloaded where it's like, all right, step A, and then it just flowcharts all the way through, and everybody was on point. And so I got curious, and one of the replays, well, we saw 2 replays from them at the end of each map, but one of the replays was funny because you start on Icebox, like Autumn's calling for information. He's asking, like, okay, do you see the Viper? Like, did they cross or whatever? And they're answering in English. It's all English comms. And then Autumn goes down, and immediately, like that, it just goes full Chinese. And they just start calling in Chinese, and then they win the round. But it's super clean, even in Chinese. Like, they're not shouting over each other. It's all very systematic and things like that. So I do think that they have a system that works for them. And I think if you're playing the number game like Gen.G did last year, that alone will get you like top 3 in China, in my opinion.
They want Autumn to play like Angel, but not so that he could zoom out and kind of like macro call while dead, but just so he can shut the fuck up and they can all just speak Mandarin.
It's like the Sassy Pancada buff, but in reverse. We were talking about how when it's only Sassy and Pancada alive, they can communicate in Portuguese on Sentinels, and it's like when Autumn dies, we hit our full power. Dude, it'd be so interesting to look at like 4v5 win rates when Autumn dies and see if it's different to other players.
Ah, yes, the white boy sacrifice. Let us come, brothers.
I mean, this team is so interesting. They're so funny to follow. They're just bizarre because of the way that they've crafted their team. If it works for them, it works for them, I guess. But God, it's weird.
Can I just quickly say about this tech comp? I mean, they're playing. I mean, both teams played without a Killjoy, but Tech are playing without even a Vice, right? They're playing Deadlock, so they have no like full info Sentinel essentially, and they're playing Deadlock Teo. And I was initially like somewhat excited for, oh, maybe they got some cool little combos, with the new GravNet Teo missiles. They'll be sending them out at the start of every round, trying to catch people off. Nope. No. Well, in fact, we'll have our Teo start A every round and our Deadlock start B every round. Every fucking round.
Well, yeah, you got to spread the wealth. You got to make sure that your abilities spread evenly around the map. So you weren't impressed then?
Oh, Tech was so shy.
I
mean, Howdong was the top fragging for the second map, and if you watched EDG last year, you know how big of a monumental problem that is.
Yeah, that shouldn't really be happening, I suppose.
I also just want to give a shout out to Shrimp because he was constantly spraying the shrimp spray at the start of each round, so he knows his brand marketing very well.
Shrimp was a strange pickup too because he hadn't played in ages. I was just like, obviously I'm not up to date on all of the new players that come into the top level, but I like to just take a look at like where they've been and what they've done beforehand. Prior to this game, he hadn't played since September in a match, and I was like, what? That's so weird. And then before that, he played 2 matches in Ascension. The previous game before that, he hadn't played since November of 2023. So
maybe
this is remarkably odd player to have found or picked up. I wonder where they've got this guy on the radar from.
Maybe they thought that it would be like a Sylvan situation where he's been out of it for so long, and then he comes back and he just has this roaring performance that carries them and assists in getting the title because he's been on the bench for so long. So that drive is going to have built up for years over time, and then just. Didn't work.
It's like in a film where they go and find like the old veteran, and he's just there casting a little fishing hook, sitting there.
How did you find me?
Will you play for us? Yes, but it will cost you.
It's the Angel and Artist video. It will be very painful for them. FPX have just played.
First I will break them.
FPX have opened playing against Tech. They then play against Tai Lu next.
Glue.
Yep, Tai Glue. So they played against the Titan Glue Club.
They've got a pretty good schedule until they hit EG.
Actually,
Nova and DRG are decent teams. Those are decent. Nova just won that like.
If they just improve week over week, then I think that they're going to be in a solid position because the player base, like the core of FPX, is still so good.
Yeah, they're good players.
I feel like they're in a good spot. And then, I mean, if they beat EDG, then good God, like all bets are off after that.
Okay, well, let's keep track of them. But I want to move us along to a team, again, that quite a lot of people will be familiar with, and it's Trace Esports. Now, Trace. They come out with a big win this week. They're 1-0. They're up towards the top of the leaderboards.
Not top though, are they?
Not quite top. But they do have the best round differential in their group. So presumably they played a great game to open.
But good stuff.
I love the slow build up as Kurt goes through the page.
I think Chobra is a pretty, or at least he seems to be a pretty, happy, peaceful guy. We were on a call for this game. He wasn't that happy with this game. I kind of turned him into like an angry, brought him over to the dark side of being angry at the game.
It was just so. I mean, as someone who was trying so hard to defend Trace Esports, like something must have gone wrong at Bangkok. They looked so good in kickoff. They had good fundamentals in 2023. All they got to do is just play good defaults, and they'll be back in form in China. And then they show up, and they're not playing even as a team. Like, if you look at the Pearl, Kai has a bunch of kills, but this is literally him playing solo queue and just sliding in and spraying down 3 people for multi-kills. Like, literally, there's just no support. He just goes in and he just happens to be better individually. It was so disappointing. Like, it was almost mind-blowingly disappointing.
Yeah,
I've not seen any of this. What happened with the other 2 maps there? Like, what happened when they dropped the map to all gamers?
That's the thing. They just weren't that good. Like,
yeah,
genuinely, like, you'll be like, how did they? There's no way they could lose a map to all gamers because you might think, all gamers, maybe they're a bit better. No, they aren't, because the real all gamers showed up on the last map. Like, that's who they are.
Now, to be clear, who are the real all gamers?
Well, see, this is the problem. Is that the CEO? He said, "Look, we've named ourselves All Gamers. We have to acquire all of the gamers in China." So we have to just keep accruing mass as far as like just number of bodies that we have on this roster.
One of the
keep
funniest
packing them in.
One of the funniest things about all gamers as well, in my opinion, is that they previously on VLR only had 1 player listed as a sub. Now they have 2, but that kind of implies that they've got an active roster of 8 players and are still figuring out who the sub is. And then one of them is just called Player.
Player.
Player was probably their best player, to be honest, for parts of this game.
God damn. Okay, so what went wrong on Lotus then? Are they just genuinely like? Does it just look like Tracer playing like crap? What's happening?
Yeah, I mean that's also true.
They pivoted Feng Feng to
exactly. Feng Feng isn't rotating off onto Duelist anymore, and he was playing the Teo, and I mean, he was looking lost so often. Like, he was just going out there trying to get frags and then putting out salvos with no support. Like, he's playing as if he's still playing the Raze. And let's be honest, even on the Raze, sometimes he would go way too far out and just die on his own without much impact. So he's not able to kind of reel that back in on this Teo. So I'm wondering, like, I'm glad that they're actually trying to just pivot to Kai as a primary duelist. I think that's good. But I do think they need Feng Feng. Yeah, I do think they need Feng Feng to, like, really calm down and get into his own position.
Are they actually trying to pivot into Kai as their primary duelist? Because what you'll notice as well is that they, on Lotus and Split, they played no Sentinel. And on Pearl, they played double duelist. So on all of the maps, the comp that they chose, it doesn't align with their previous strategy of having one of them play the duelist and one of them play the Sentinel. They actually can't do that on any of the 3 maps that they're playing based on the comp they've picked. Yeah. And if they went back to playing Raze comps, wouldn't that still be Feng Feng? Do you really think they're just
I'm sure they will? I think they might
just
fold G2 this. I think they might just fold G2. Like, if you look at their Lotus comp here, it is the G2 comp, and then they're playing the same comp on Split as well.
Yeah.
So I think that they might just go fully and say we're playing Yoru pretty much every map, and Feng Feng there for you. If he's playing Teo on these maps, you'd assume he would play Teo on the other maps as well, right?
Yeah.
If they think he's their Teo.
He didn't play Teo on map 1. That was Bianca.
Well, yeah.
Because they were playing double duelist. But like, if they play what's a map where you
like
play
a Fracture?
Icebox, you have to play a Sentinel.
Icebox.
Yeah. Unless you're fucking tech and don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. Or I suppose Fracture is another good example where you have to play a hard Sentinel too.
Yeah.
Is that going to be Heibei or is that going to be Feng Feng?
My guess would be Feng Feng, unless they go Raze, which I think Fracture would be a very good tell, right, on what their plan is going forward. And Fracture was banned by AG, so yeah, they could go solo duelist Waylay, and Kai could go in and just get multi-kills just like he did on Neon without any support.
Is this team chalked? Is this team chalked?
It seems
85%.
Like probably.
If
you wanted to easily rage bait, is you could send highlights of them versus all like AG and just say like Aspas lost to this. And just watch them all come in from the America's hands.
chalked to like be what I hoped they would be going into Bangkok.
Sure, yes.
And like be a competitive international level team. Yeah.
Because
Chalked
Trace
making-
were easily the second best team in China, easily, and
Mhm.
looked like they might have been able to do some damage on the international stage, and in fact did a bit of damage at Champions by getting out of the group and kind of stopping Vitality from doing so. So are they chalked in that sense, like just meeting the same expectations, or maybe even doing a bit better?
I would honestly, just based off this game, obviously maybe it's an overreaction, but I do think that there's a very good likelihood they don't show up to Masters Toronto, right? Because BLG looks to be steady enough to always be guaranteed third place. FPX is looking good. DRG still has Vukashu, who's dropping 390 ACS with a 2.3 KD. Like, I don't think there's a place for this Trace in the international stage.
Say Wolves! Say Wolves!
No,
all right.
No.
All right, bollocks to you, TMV. They literally
2-0,
play Wolves.
Easy.
They play Wolves next week. Trace play against Wolves next week.
Well, they're cooked, aren't they?
Who?
Unfortunately.
Who is
Trace,
cooked?
Trace, obviously Trace! The team that is cooked playing against the greatest team the world has ever seen!
Yeah, the greatest team that almost dropped their second half on that team. Let's be honest, that was not an easy win, as it should have been.
Yeah, but they just almost, like, they got a bit of a choking problem to get over, but they're fine. They were decent.
If these two teams had played in kickoff, which I don't remember that they did, but if they had, DMV, how do you think it would have gone in kickoff?
What, Trace versus
Yeah,
Wolves?
Trace versus Wolves in
look cool.
kickoff.
They might have won 3 rounds, Wolves.
Okay. Okay, so the Delulu hasn't infected you too heavily. You just believe that the fates have flipped.
Based on the 2 games that we just saw, Wolves looked better than Trace.
right.
Eat that choke.
No. I mean, that's not saying much because Trace looked garbage in their first match.
Okay, that's one to tune into though. That is, when is that game happening? Wolves versus Trace. That's in
Sunday, I think.
5
Sunday?
days about. Yeah. March 22nd, my time.
That's
anyway.
on our launch day, so don't tune into that. Watch Pacific instead.
Is that the
Yeah,
same time?
tune in for T1 Zeta
It might
instead of Trace.
Yeah,
versus
no,
Wolves.
yeah. Seth, that's going to be a fast 2-0. It'll be over. You start an hour earlier as well. Like it'll don't worry about
Fair
it.
point.
It won't overlap.
All right, let's move on to talking a little bit
it's
about.
at 8 p.m. local time for us, so that the first series probably will be over.
Oh, there you go. It works out perfectly then. I do want to slowly transition us to talking about Pacific though instead of China. But first of all, I want to talk about what is happening at the moment in terms of some of these roster moves. Because god damn, there are no initiators that can find a safe home anywhere across the league right now. Just to read out, these are the names of the teams that I can think of off the top of my head after doing a bit of research that have changed initiators currently. Liquid, Gentle Mates, Vitality, Leviathan, MIBR, 2G, Furia, RRQ, Gen.G. 9 different teams have changed Initiator players. Maybe even more. I might have missed some out. I'm not 100% about that. But that's a crazy amount of Initiators being shuffled around. Some of them getting traded to other teams as well. It's bonkers. And of course, some of those are only reported or rumored. Like Vitality, for example, is only been like rumored, I guess you could call it. It's just like a leaker within the Vitality scene, but they have signed Sayonara. And some of them have been reported on, like, Gen.G officially announced Yeoman, right?
Yes, Yeoman was released, I think, last week or maybe 2 weeks ago. And then they just released, or they just announced that Ash was being called up from their academy team. So those parts are confirmed. Right. Obviously, there's reports of other changes as well.
Yeah. Let's go with Gen.G then to begin with. So Yeoman has been cut from the team. Foxy9 has been moved onto the bench where he's so comfortable. I mean, half of
Try not to
Foxy9's
sound
career
too
has been on
happy.
the
Try
bench.
not to celebrate too hard.
I'm not. Why is he on the bench though? This is what I don't understand. Like, are you trying to bring him back in later on?
He gets benched a lot and not cut.
He really does,
it's quite
doesn't he?
Impressive, isn't it?
It's bizarre.
He's probably a nice guy.
So what?
Is he?
He is a nice guy. Yeah, he's very sweet. Yeah.
That's lovely. What do you think about Gen.G's chances with this version of the team?
Yeah.
There are plenty of lovely people, and I don't know the guy. I'm not going to put my...
I don't know, man. I mean, it's kind of hard to say. Because like Ash has a lot of hype coming into this roster. Like they've had some strong performances, but we haven't seen Suggest since 2023. It's another one of these things where it's just like, you've been on the bench for so long. Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, he hasn't really played in quite some time. Like, the last time was when he was on DFM?
No, he played the online. Well, he tried to play the online qualifiers with F4Q, and obviously that didn't pan out very well. But that's a whole different
anything
story.
That's tracked by VLR, because I looked at it earlier, and he just hasn't done anything since. There you go, Riot 1 2023. Bro's been out for like a whole season and a half.
To be clear,
he's a good player. Like, he can be a very good player, but he was a part of, maybe it's going to be that magic of like HSK. They were both part of that DFM squad that won 0-9, and he's going to show up and they're going to fucking pound. I don't know.
I do think that there's probably something with, like, Solo is pretty infamous for wanting a certain style of play. Like, his coaching style and his IJing style was very much like, I have the answer. I need players who can play my style. That's why it didn't work out on D plus Kia. And he went on record kind of saying, like, I couldn't kind of relay this, and that's something he had to learn as well. Now, if we're to kind of project that onto the Gen.G roster, where it worked out last year and now this year it's not happening, I can only imagine that if Suggest, obviously it has that history with playing under Solo and even Perry, right, and under HSK, like, they look at him and they say, well, he can at least get what we're trying to do. Like, we're not going to have to drill it into his head. Now, I also just want to point out that Suggest was one of those players when New Turn broke apart that basically went on a stream and was like, yeah, like, Solo runs a hard, he just runs a hard ship, man. It's such a tight ship. And he was kind of joking and complaining about how tough it was to work under Solo. So I don't know how much he's matured since that and working together. But I think Suggest as a player is worth looking into again. I think Ash as a player is very exciting. He was definitely one of the standouts last year, but he was mainly a duelist, right? So he's played Initiator, but mainly a duelist. So the question is does Ash have the in-game intelligence and autonomy to bring about the info and the util that Solo and Munchkin want? Because I can only assume that was the biggest thing with Yeoman.
So you're assuming that Ash is coming in to play Initiator? Because my thought was that he would be coming in to play Sentinel.
Oh, I don't think so. I think if it's Ash and Suggest, if it's Ash and Suggest, I think it's Suggest on Sentinel. Right, just because not only has he played it, but they need someone who basically gets their pacing, like, just without talking about it.
Chobra, can I ask you a question as well about potential? Do you think Texture can play Yoru, and are they bringing in Ash as a potential Yoru player, like go back to their Breeze comp type style, Jet Yoru?
I mean, yeah, they could.
They could.
I don't think Texture would shine playing Yoru, so I think they could have Ash. Like, I think Ash could be a flex, right, where he's playing a lot of the double duelist and kind of being that Initiator / duelist that Meteor was for Texture. I think that could work. But I also think, Solo's, he's infamous for not following the meta. I mean, they refused to play Neon until she was nerfed, so who knows?
Yeah. Dude, if I see Ash come in and play full duelist and Texture, instead of going double duelist, goes on to... Right, but if we get
Texture was a pretty banging Sentinel on Global Esports.
Yeah, but... Global Esports!
If they did that, that would be so funny.
That's what's going through my head, man. That's what's going through my head.
Ash plays Jets and just plays Rays. Textures on fucking Killjoy or something in the corner.
Yeah, it's possible.
We ranked this team pretty high in our rankings. Yeah. Like, before we knew that any of this was happening.
Yeah, but I would say I would say you could replace as long as you've got that core 3. The core 3 is very, very good, right? Like, some of the best in the world at their roles. So as long as you've got that core 3, like, the other 2, like, this team isn't gonna ever be like middle of the pack. They're always gonna be like upper table team, and then like the other 2 will probably determine whether they're like the third best team or the best team in Pacific.
The reason that I had originally assumed that Ash was coming in to play Sentinel for Foxy 9 is because I saw him as going through a similar pipeline to somebody like Meteor. And we've seen that pipeline work for plenty of players as well, where you go from being a cracked duelist onto a Senti. And the way that I've normally thought about Gen.G being formulated, if you think about like how Solo likes his teams to run, they do generally have like a kind of passive, non-fragging Initiator player, rather than Initiators that like run around doming everybody. That tends to come actually from the Sentinel side of things with Meteor. So
I
That'd be
just
quite
think
different.
if that was the case, it's like they could have found ways to work with Foxy9, I think, still, even if he wasn't able to play the old Gen.G style. So that would just be my question. However, Suggest also used to play a lot of Breach and stuff. So, maybe Munchkin and Suggest can work out who's playing what Initiator, and that could happen too.
And by the way, this is reporting coming from Tanmay. The official announcements from Gen.G are that Yeoman is out and Ash is in. We don't have confirmation yet from the team that Foxy9 is benched and Suggest has been brought in. But
which again is all these roster moves making it really hard for me on the fantasy side because I'm having to guess what roles people are playing and I'm having to guess who's actually playing. I was expecting maybe 2 roster moves in the entire scene and everyone's fucking doing it.
Okay, I want to end with RRQ because that'll pivot us nicely into the Pacific stuff. So let's rewind a little bit and talk about some of the EMEA Initiator roster shuffling going on as well, because they've got a bit of a mad one happening over here. I don't even know where this started, whether this started in Liquid or whether this started in Gentle Mates. But the result of it is that Kamek is leaving Team Liquid to join Gentle Mates, is the report. And Robbie BK is going to the bench, which means that they don't now have... I mean, I don't know who's IGLing. Maybe I should have read the roster report more accurately. Right. Okay, so Mini is going to be picking up the IGLing for them. And then Serial has reached a verbal agreement, according to Sheep Esports, to join Team Liquid, which implies then that Nats might be going over to play Initiator, and Serial's going to be playing Sentinel, which... I mean, let's start with the Liquid side of things. They have an incredible run during kickoff, perform way better than people were expecting. I would suggest even themselves, but who knows what their personal expectations were. Kamek, player in incredible rifling form, although we definitely were a bit critical of his decision-making at times, and maybe that's something they were aware of. But they're making... Like, Nats just had an all-time Nats Sentinel performance at Bangkok.
Yep.
And then he might be on Initiator to help him on IGL?
I've been thinking about this. Is there a world where Nats felt that just clutching up on the site isn't going to get them the wins they need? Right? Because if he's playing in Sentinel, he can call fine on Sentinel, but if he can't be out there getting proactive with the team, he can still clutch up the rounds. Like, is there a world where he felt, it's not that the team wanted it, he was like, I need to get into the thick of things to make things happen better for my team.
Nats has determined that he's not been fucking hard enough in the lobby, that he needs to just get into a position where he can truly just stomp on everybody.
Guys, I'm sick of clutching. I'm going to just do it at the start.
40 kills on Bind or whatever he dropped. Yeah. I could have dropped 55 if I was on fucking Initiator.
If I was a part of the initial hit, I could have won even quicker.
They wouldn't have gotten the 1 round they got.
But not playing Nats on Sentinel, that should be a crime. That should be an actual crime against humanity. Just
But if they do keep Nats on Sentinel, then that implies that Serial is going to fill in on Flex or Initiator.
Yeah, which is
and that's not what he's been playing recently. And now, again, I'm not
I think
an
it's
expert
much
on
more
this guy,
likely that Nats plays Initiator because he has played Fade this year already before.
Yeah.
So I think it's much more likely that Nats plays Initiator. So when he plays Sentinel in that first game, you'll know that this is the reason why. Because I just said that.
God, I
it feels
hate
so
that
weird
idea.
to think about it.
But also, this can't have been
like on Sova or some shit. You're like, what is this? What am I looking at?
Sova is horrible.
That is, yeah. That's terrible.
How's it gonna lurk?
The nobody way.
Yeah, he's just gonna
I suppose so.
He was the only Sentinel IGL at Bangkok, and we saw a lot of other teams talking about how difficult it is to IGL from the Senti position. But he was doing it.
Yeah.
And they were having
didn't win.
success with it.
So.
Yeah, what? And so
you weren't expecting them to.
No,
they got par, I would say.
Yeah, but I'm
above
just saying,
par.
Nats
They got a fucking albatross.
No,
they got a birdie at least.
A birdie. I'm buying the birdie.
They weren't even expected to make it to Bangkok.
Oh no, I'm talking about when going into Bangkok.
Oh, going to Bangkok?
Oh yeah,
okay.
From kickoff, yeah, they got a fucking.
That's what I'm saying. An albatross.
What is above albatross?
Fucking Boeing 747. I don't know how it really goes. There's nothing bigger than an albatross, is there? They're the biggest bird.
Ostrich.
I think an albatross has got a bigger wingspan than an ostrich. I don't know,
House
though.
just
Surely.
barely has a wingspan.
Yeah, but it's a bigger bird.
Well,
Is it based on
Pterodactyl?
Big
wingspan
bird
or
on
is it
there.
based on the bigness of the bird?
are there any golfing heads in the chat? Do we have a large Venn diagram crossover with Valorant and golf? I don't know about that. Yeah, where do you think this began? Because I don't see any reason why it would have begun in Gentlemates. If Gentlemates got rid of Robbie BK, and why would Kamek want to leave Liquid to join Gentlemates? Like, that's the part that doesn't make any sense.
I think it had
to
to
me.
start with Liquid, right?
Has to start with Liquid, surely. That's the only way it makes sense.
This is just
Yeah,
a
Liquid
really
got rid of
fast change. Like you go to you get to Bangkok and you're like maybe they were working on this because they didn't expect to make Bangkok, and then they made Bangkok and they're like, right, put a pause on all of this, and then we'll see how we perform, and if we bomb out of the tournament, then we reboot it all back up.
Yeah, I think it's a little strange. I don't know much about Serial. Maybe he's just so incredibly good that they're like, oh, we have to get this guy, right now. Otherwise, someone else will get him, and we just think he's that good. I think from Gentlemate's perspective, if we take a twist to their side of the coin, if that to me is like a similar situation to Nozwa, where if you've already decided that Robbie isn't going to be your IGL, like if you think that that's a problem and you're like, he's not going to IGL for us, then I think it makes sense, because then you're like, well, we can probably find someone who's a better fragger than Robbie. If you've already made the decision he's not going to be your IGL, you just say, oh, well, we can find someone who's probably a better fragger as well.
Which is interesting, because when Minnie was on the EMEA broadcast, he was talking about the fact that I think it was last year, they were thinking about people for Fnatic Academy, and he said he was very heavily considering signing Robbie, but not to IGL, just because he was a good player. So it's not to say that you can't get improvements for Robbie. Robbie's been bizarrely inconsistent throughout kickoff. He's had some maps where he's farmed, and he's had some maps where he's just completely lost the plot. Yeah, yeah. So I guess his overall stats are probably quite shit, but he has had some maps where he's popped off. Yeah, what's his KPR? Like 0.5 something? That really is like pretty dreadful. But yeah, where's he at in terms of the overall stats? He's second worst, was he there? Did I? Oh, no, he's nowhere near second worst. But a low,
is that it?
A low KPR. Is that really a 0.49 KPR? That's
rough.
Yeah, that is really, really low. Which is strange, because some of the games he actually has been hitting.
I can go lower.
He's an old man. He's an old man. We can't judge him the same way we do others. We've got to put him in his own bucket with finesse and boostio and. Okay, so then for Gentlemates, they're looking to sign Kamek. What do you think about that move? Do you think Kamek's a significantly better player to the point where it's like a good move that's going to improve them a lot?
It might improve them a bit. I think to be fair to Gentlemates, and I think the Ascension teams in general, of course, they have a bigger pressure on them than the other teams do, right? And I think it's more reasonable to expect that they might be more reactionary and quicker to change, because they literally have to do something, right? Like they can't finish in the bottom four, otherwise it's GG, right? So they have to feel like so with if any Ascension teams make roster moves. I'm kind of a bit more lenient in terms of like, yeah, it makes a bit more sense because you're chasing it more than maybe other teams are.
Yeah. Just to remind me, if they finish in the bottom four and Apex finish in the bottom four,
they're both just gone.
They're both gone. 2 teams ascend, right? Okay. Let's move on to the next part of the Initiator roster shuffle then. So we've got Vitality. Now, Vitality has one leaker account that has previously reported some accurate information from Vitality before, saying that, and we've already talked about it on the show, saying that they're looking for a replacement for Trex, and they were looking towards Leo and Syvoth. But what we didn't know last week as well was, at least as far as I'm aware, is that Sayonara was also being signed to Vitality too. So they now have. We were talking at the time last week, if my memory serves, about the fact that getting Fnatic on, getting Leo, like if there was any world where Leo actually wanted to play and he joined Vitality, that would be the world's biggest fuck you to Fnatic ever seen. But also, Fnatic scouted this guy, as far as I'm aware. Like, we're playing with him as a sub for Leo during the offseason, and Vitality have just gone, yoink.
Yeah. Yeah. But, like, this, I think, would be the craziest of all the moves. If Vitality got rid of Trex. That would be... I mean, for a team that finished in the top 4, right? Like, okay, maybe they had aspirations even higher at Bangkok, but it wasn't a disaster. You know, you finished in the top 4, you won EMEA. Like, that's a pretty good start to the year. Things are looking promising. To then get rid of a player, and Sayonara can't play till next year anyway. So they're gonna have to bring in someone else. I mean, if it is Leo, that's the greatest troll of all time. But if it's anyone other than Leo, are they definitely going to be better than Trex?
Unlikely, with who you're working with at the moment.
Unlikely.
Did you see the comment from the assistant coach?
Yeah, I did.
But
I find that
former
terribly
assistant coach.
Strange as well.
Former assistant coach. So I believe he was speculating. I don't think he was leaking. I think he was just talking about what he knows about the players. And what he said about the players was, I think what he was trying to do was defend the players from people who were like speculating in Twitch chat, but he ended up giving away a bit too much, and then other people have used it to speculate further.
And we will do that now.
Yeah, we will. Basically, what he said was that Safe and Trex aren't toxic players, but they are both perfectionists, and they do have a different vision of the game. So it is natural for them to butt heads a little bit. Now, he didn't say that Trex is cut. He didn't say that. He did say that just doesn't work. So that is, I guess, a bit of an indictment. But having...
It's so strange, though, isn't it?
It kind of sounds like, you know, when you turn up to an interview and you're like, what's your greatest weakness? And you're like, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, actually. Can you imagine them being, fuck you, you're fired! Get out of my face! It's crazy to have that be the biggest clash between your players.
And the fact that they've been on rosters before.
Yes.
I read that basically as an ego clash, right? Because if you're two perfectionists but you have differing opinions, that's a problem. Because if you have different ideas about what's a perfect way to play. So to me, this just felt like, this was my worst fear about this team, that at some point the out-of-game stuff breaks apart. If it's true. Obviously, we don't know, but that's what it felt like.
It's like watching Gordon Ramsay make scrambled eggs and then watching Marco Pierre White make scrambled eggs. They're both incredibly talented chefs, but they make very different products, and they both say that these are the perfect scrambled eggs. So maybe it's just a clash like that. There's a different flavor, different ingredients that they think should be used, and it just doesn't really. You put them next to each other, you can tell, like, these don't really match up. They're just very different.
But would you expect them to be unable to work with each other in a kitchen?
Marco Pierre White did make Gordon Ramsay cry, so maybe some of that's happening in the back rooms of Vitality. Maybe Save is just making Trex just sob in the
Gordon
corner.
Ramsay in on some of these underperforming VCT teams. Yeah.
That
Imagine
would be
last year's
content.
NRG. Gordon Ramsay.
If you just got Gordon Ramsay and said, like, look, like, I know you don't understand this game, but I just want you to yell this.
I just
at
want
this
you to
player.
call them a fucking idiot.
It would be very
two
good
slices
content.
of bread on the side of Ethan's cheeks last year with NRG. What are you?
I'm an idiot sandwich.
Let's move on to RRQ then, because RRQ have also changed people around, which is bonkers, or at least that is the report that's come out. This one's from VLR. RRQ to sign Crazy Guy in place of Estrella. Has this one been confirmed yet by RRQ? No, right? So this is still
Don't believe
reporting.
so. It's still speculation.
Cobra, can you report it for us though now, like it is?
As the RRQ spokesperson,
He doesn't
You're the
have inside
Nongshim person
information
now.
anymore.
You're the
I am
Nongshim guy now.
Have I cut you off?
Yeah,
flavor-
I don't have
what-
my people anymore. I don't
What's
have
the
the
new flavor
channels.
of instant noodles that's coming out? What's the next next one's gonna
That
hit the
is
shelves?
a top secret, and you'll have to wait until the later date to
Son of a
find out.
bitch.
But I have heard the rumors here that were reported as well, in that this was like Estrella also looking at Gen.G, or Gen.G looking at Estrella. I don't know which came first, but that is what was floating around for the longest time, actually, even before the rest of Gen.G's roster moves were being rumored about. So it sounds like there was some kind of a chicken or the egg first.
Well,
thing
can I ask you a question then, Chobra? Is it possible because Gen.G haven't announced their other move? Is that still a possibility, or is that?
I think that's a possibility, but the fact that rumor's died out so much makes it feel like maybe not.
Gen.G comes out with a 7-man roster.
Also, like I did find it interesting because RRQ, like they've been putting out content to promote their capsule, their classic capsule, and every time it's like one of their players and the corresponding academy player. And as all these rumors were just going about like crazy, I think like last week they put out the ones with the IGLs, and Estrella didn't have his cam on, so they just had a picture for him. So I don't know. Maybe it was Crazy Guy playing and it wasn't Estrella. Like, who knows?
Hey, Crazy Guy, can't you just like try and copy Estrella's voice?
Do you? Maybe I'm talking from a position of ignorance here, so I do want to get your input on this as well. But when I think about RRQ's current roster, I feel like the main Initiator player is Cushy, and Estrella is more of the flex filling the gaps kind of player. But when I think about Crazy Guy, I think about somebody who plays more of the hard Initiator kind of role.
Who just plays Sova.
So this doesn't make sense to me from a roles perspective either, because you're overlapping those roles, and even if you're not, even if it works for this meta where a lot of people are playing Breach Tejo, that's not forward thinking. That's not meta-proofing yourself for the future.
If this comes through, my assumption would be that Cushy becomes a flex. And I can see that just based on his mechanics that it can be possible. We just don't know, right? Like whether he can actually adjust to the pacing and whatnot. But he seems very vocal. He used to be an IGL himself in the past. And if he definitely has the mechanical prowess itself to play, on any role, in my opinion. So I think that can work. That would also technically allow Cushy to be that second in line to trade for Jemkin, which he was already kind of meant to be doing anyway, but sometimes it was hard as the Sova. So in all honesty, like a lot of people have asked me, I don't know why, because I only care about Notion Red Force now, and I don't know this team called RRQ, but a lot of people ask me about my opinion, and I actually think this would be fairly interesting if that's how it worked out, right? Because I think Cushy could maybe even expand even more as a flex player. And personally, I've always counted Crazy Guy's IGLing as pretty good. Like I've wanted to see it actually have a proper shot in Tier 1 on VCT Pacific. So
what are you saying about Bleed?
I mean, nobody on that team had a proper shot to do anything, let's be honest, right? They were busy pulling out spreadsheets on Twitter, so they were not playing the game that year. I thought his calling was very good.
I think it's really important that people give Crazy Guy the same level of like bail that you give the other people involved in Bleed. Like, it might have been his fault that things went to shit, but
it wasn't all his fault.
Yeah, it wasn't all his fault, and also if you're going to look at some of the other players on that Bleed roster and be like, well, you can't tell how good they were based off Bleed because Bleed was utterly dysfunctional, then you also can't tell really how good Crazy Guy is. You might have concerns that he might fuck this roster up as well. From an interpersonal perspective, that might be a valid concern. But from a gameplay like quality perspective, an IGL quality perspective, you can't judge him based on Bleed because for exactly the same reasons you couldn't judge like Ye's performance, for example.
You can. You just have to judge him on Bleed before they ascended.
Yes.
And then, you can go off that, which points to him being a pretty quality IGL and like a good leader. I feel like it does have to be Cushy that flexes. But if you look at both of them and their all-time played, it's a fuckload of Sova and barely anything else. So somebody has to bend. I feel like it will be Cushy that ends up flexing around a little bit more. But yeah, like the drop-off between like their most played to their second most played is staggering if you look at their all-time.
Yeah, I just thinking about it now though, especially in at least for the current.
Wow, that is really.
And Cushy's is not that different. It's 146 games on Sova, and then 46 or whatever on Sky. Like they've both just been Sova pilled.
I do think, especially in the current meta though, I could see Crazy Guy going the other route, right, and just mostly focusing on the calling, zoning out, clearing zones initially with things like Gecko or Tejo, because the counterpoint would be if Cushy just frags better as a Sova as well, which I think he did absolutely in kickoff. then you keep him on there, and then you just say, I mean, crazy guy, listen, we're not asking you to frag, 20 kills every game. We just need you to do your job, which I think he probably can.
And that's what I would be worried about, is that Cushy to me looked like one of the best rookie players in Pacific, in the league, like as a whole, to be honest. And so if you mess with that, if you put him on flex and you get a downgrade in the short term, you might just miss all of your chances of getting to big events, even if it makes the best long-term sense. Let's get into some of the games that are happening this week, I reckon. Pacific Stage 1, Week 1 predictions. So you can have a look at our community tab if you're in the viewing area right now, whether you're live or watching the VOD, and you can vote on the Pacific Match of the Week. And then we will look back next week and we will grade your results. We'll see how well you're doing. And we're keeping track. We are keeping track. So our opening game that we wanted to do predictions of is DFM playing against Global Esports.
Close one.
And we are split 2-2. Myself and TMV going with Global Esports, and then the
GE sandwich here.
Yeah, a little GE sandwich with Chobra and Achilles being the bread. All right, left piece of bread. What you got for me?
Full
with
of
DFM?
carbs.
You're the left piece. You're the left.
Okay. Jesus Christ. Anyway, I just think that DFM, they're gonna have like a slight advantage where they've been on the grind for a little while. Global has probably had to make this last minute pivot to kind of reintegrate Patrick Hu into the roster, and I think like one of two things happens. I think that either they look a bit off because he hasn't really gotten fully integrated back into the team quite just yet, or they have a honeymoon game, come out and beat DFM, and then fall off a little bit in their follow-up series. I think that those are the two possibilities, but I'm leaning on May to kind of just be the guy that is able to carry DFM to another victory here.
Chobra, you doing a lot of nodding? You got anything to add?
No, that's pretty much it. I think the only other thing I would add is I think one of the benefits that GE has is that they have coaches and players who are willing to play very kind of targeted comps and, interesting comps. But we know that they couldn't do that because they weren't quite sure when Patrick Hu would join. So even that strength, I don't think is going to come out in full force in week 1. And it's just a complete blank slate. So it's not like you can also just like straight up anti or counter what DFM is going to do. So yeah, I'm with him on that. I also just think Gen will be a bit more confident, right? Because he's not playing against the top 3 teams. So I think that gives DFM a slight edge. But down the road, I think GE absolutely can fight with DFM for the spot to get into playoffs. It's just week 1 things.
For sure.
TMV. Global got slapped around last time they played against DFM. It was a 0-2 game in kickoff. Why the hell have you gone for Global? Are you an
false
idiot?
narrative. It's a terrible classic sideshow. Tory didn't watch the game take. If you watch Split, Global should have won Split. They were the better team on Split. They just kind of choked it. And one big advantage that Global have now that they didn't have before is that they were shit at Abyss. And Abyss is no longer in the map pool. So teams cannot take that map versus them anymore.
Yeah.
Because they lost Abyss on every single series they played, I think. So
But
Their
Ascent
first
is
outing was
back.
really bad.
Ascent is back, and DFM got their first ever win on Ascent.
Oh,
in VCT.
Wow.
well, we're going
Okay,
back
a different roster.
way back in time.
No, they are slightly nerfed based on what we saw at the show match at Bangkok, because that B main not wall bangable anymore. So
Yeah,
Art's
what they gonna
Odin going to
do
be a
with
little bit
Odin,
nerfed,
yeah.
but his Odin is still just cracked anyway. He uses it like it's a fucking phantom. So
Yeah, but I just think that I think that this was a closer game than like a 2-0 scoreline would suggest the first time that they played. And I think, like in theory, Patrick Hu should be a roster upgrade as well, right?
am I misremembering? Didn't Global their first outing like pick Abyss? Like not in this series, but the first time they played it. I want to say that they did, and then they got absolutely
They
slapped
lost like
on it.
13-3
I
or
think
It was
you were
13-4,
right.
I wanna
I think you were
say.
right, and it looked terrible. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, they
'cause-
didn't actually. I'm just on the page now, though. It
I
was
don't think they
secret that
picked it.
Abyss.
Did they not?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that
Yeah,
they
it was
did,
secret.
and I thought that that's why it was that bad that they had picked. I thought because I
But
thought they selected
they
it
did
and
look
got
horrible.
bodied.
They looked horrible. Yeah.
But it's not
Yeah,
there
it was
anymore.
really rough.
I also think
Yeah, I
that
know.
I'm an,
I was
I'm
just
an
saying like that. I was trying to say that there was hubris involved, but apparently there isn't.
I'm an Udatan believer. And I also think that Darion looked a little uncomfortable, and I'm hoping that Patrick Wu,
Patrick Woo.
For I do have to be pedantic, but I have to correct you and say it's Yudotan and not Udotan,
yes.
because it's an actual word in Korean.
Yudotan, like with a Y kind of sound at the beginning.
Yeah,
right?
it's guided or homing missiles. So he's basically Teo himself. Yeah,
it's a base fucking name.
Choba,
it is.
Will Yudotan now be playing Sentinel and Patrick be playing Duelist?
As far as I know, that was always the plan. They kept saying that unless they pivot now, right? So they kept saying that's always going to be the plan when the full roster gets back together.
Just asking to know what roles to put them as in the
Yudotan was great though when we saw him playing. Let's move on to our next game. So we've got T1 playing against
close.
Zeta Division.
Smile.
Close game. What's the percentage?
In case this assists you at all, I met Autumn and Izu last weekend.
Out their minds. They hadn't stopped
not this past weekend. no, 6 days ago. And both of them were like, "Oh, we don't even really know about Waylay because we haven't practiced because everyone's been on vacation." So take that as you will.
That would give it a decent chance then.
So that might be fine because they just won't play Waylay. They just stick to what's been working.
Wait, but if they've been on vacation, then that means that they haven't been practicing Ascent or Icebox at all.
That seemed to... Wait, was it that they had been on vacation or that the other teams that they would otherwise be scrimming were still on vacation?
No, they were on vacation. If you follow any of the players on Instagram, you would know, because the ones who have significant others were busy posting all of their date pictures every single day.
But that actually means then that they've had no practice on the new maps, because the later you get throughout the tournament of Masters, the earlier you get knocked out, the more you can focus on the new map pool. And there's no reason for them to have been scrimming on Ascent or Icebox at all before that. So there's two maps that they will have just sheerly be going on based off like theory or something on. I'm getting worried now.
No, but Icebox.
Zeta Division can't play Icebox.
No, but Icebox was a great map for Meteor and Stacks and Buzz. So like I wouldn't be too worried. And it's Zeta on Icebox. So
I mean, Zeta on Icebox was atrocious last season.
They got 13-0'd on Icebox.
Yeah.
I feel like the Bala rule of the 30% upset though should still be relevant here. Yeah, it should still be
I don't feel like it's that high, but if this ends up being I feel like I have to put something on this. Like if this ends up being a curse, because it feels like it's so unlikely. But I don't know what the fuck to put on it. I'm not putting my hair on the line. That's far too important for me.
Put your eyebrows on the line.
What about shaving a little Zeta Division logo in your?
I'll do it like not self-deprecating. I'll do this, Kurt. If T1 lose this series, $200 to a charity of your choice out of my pocket.
Let's do it.
That's a bet. I like that.
Okay.
I like that. That's confidence. That's confidence.
Okay.
That is confidence.
I'm not that confident. I won't be donating to charity. Okay. The next one is the match of the week. This is the one that the fans are going to be able to vote on. It is a banger as well, at least on paper. Now, it may end up not being as much of a banger. Let's have a look and see what we've predicted. It's DRX playing against Paper Rex.
Oh, my savior. Thank you, TMV.
I really thought that was going to be a guarantee, but TMV for audio listeners has gone for Paper X. Explain.
This is just a pick to really shove it in your face, Sideshow. That's all it is. It's about legacy. It's about honor. It's about pride. It's about you trying to cut 5 of the most beloved figures in the Valorant scene. And me fighting back. Might I be wrong? Yes, I might. I might be wrong. Maybe I will be, but I will go down as a martyr with this ship, as the overlord with the mustache, reigns supreme in his wishes of, destroying the legacy of one of the great orgs in Valorant.
You're essentially saying
you can't fight against legacy.
You're saying it's not important to be correct, you want to be right. And it just feels right. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, well, it's a good job you're not going to be correct then, because the other 3 of us have gone with the team that's actually been playing well this year. Surely there's no like what are you saying the actual chances
Well, right.
are
Like,
here?
let me give you the actual reason.
What
The
is the-
reason why PaperX might actually win.
Okay.
DRX are leaning into or at least they were at Bangkok, and I assume it will be the same, a one comp strategy on most of their maps.
Right.
The
Right.
Yoru, yes.
And therefore, PaperX should have a pretty good idea of what DRX, if they continue with that, are going to do. Right? They should be able to have a decent idea.
But you
DRX
see-
will have no idea what PaperX are going to do.
That's
Because
true.
we don't
PaperX will
even
have
know
no idea what
exactly-
PaperX are going to
No,
do.
they don't know what roles they're going to play. They might play Waylay, but they might not. Who fucking knows what
They
they'll
might
come
play
up with.
Pac-Man, they might not.
Yeah, you don't even know who's going to turn up. So that's the theory behind it. And if you guys are also you're like, oh, maybe Zeta Division will beat T1. Oh, that's worry. And then you're like, oh, but the fucking PaperX, no chance that this team could beat DRX. My beloved DRX, there's no way. I say, there's no way.
That was not the reaction at all. In fact, I was just breathing a sigh of relief that you didn't have the curse on top of.
Because you don't want to have
the
to
already
shave a
decent
DRX
odds.
in your head as well.
No, look, like this is one of those series, and it's one of those games where like I could just see PaperX, even if they just are
Pick 'em
shitting
then.
themselves
Pick
for
'em.
the rest of their games in
Pick
this
'em.
stage.
Join me.
Well, I'm saying like I could see them just showing up for this one series just to continue to beat DRX.
Yeah.
And then
Join
go
us.
back to just being like fucking dog shit for the rest of the stage. Like they could just do that.
Yeah, me too.
But I don't know. I feel like
Pick him.
it's a different DRX. No, because
We can gang up on Sideshow. We can pick gang up on him. It's
The
not too
others-
late.
The others don't want to be wrong, TMV. They don't want to be wrong. It's fine if you're okay, but
Also,
What-
look at who you're fucking talking to saying swap the pick. Hello, I'm the
I know.
DRX guy.
that's crazy. Chobra, what's the percentage chance here?
Oh, percentage? I think 40.
Oh, right. So you do think that there's a serious...
Sideshow
Chance here
thinks
as
it's
well.
10. What do you think?
Yeah.
No. Again,
Again.
again, the Bala 70-30 rule I have tons of respect for. It's a 30% chance. It's a 30% minimum chance.
Minimum chance. Wow.
I think there's just been a startling difference between these two teams' understanding of the meta. And I think that the DRX players have also been in very, very good form. If Hyunmin and Freeing are not playing to the same level individually that they did during kickoff, then there's a big chance for PaperX, a big chance, a massive opportunity. But I think, considering what we've seen from them so far and their meta understanding, I just think they're going to be a step ahead. I think it's not that PaperX won't know what's coming, but they won't be coordinated, disciplined enough to actually execute well on any kind of anti. I think they've been playing like a sloppy soup this year.
For me,
Let's
it
move
comes
on to our
down-
next
I think-
game.
Oh,
No, go on. I thought you were finished. I thought you were
no,
finished.
I was gonna say I think it comes down more to like if PaperX can kind of beat Mako's IGLing into submission by just throwing curveball after curveball at him and catching him off guard. That's the primary way that I would see. I mean, and that requires the players to be on point. But if they're able to do wacky shit that like DRX is not prepared for, I could see them winning it through that kind of method.
Yeah. Let's move on to our next game then. This one would have been a banger if it was last year. This year, it's hard to say what it is. It's Talon playing against Team Secret. A battle of fourth from 2014.
Wow. What?
And I've gone for a punt.
No!
For the audio
You're
listeners,
dropping all of PaperX and you're picking 2025
He gets a
secret.
me! He gets a me for making PaperX! And he picks Team Secret! He talks about teams looking shit! And he picks Team Secret!
I've gone for the audio listeners. I'm the only person who have gone for Team Secret.
Oh fuck!
Explain
if I was-
yourself.
I was to defend this pick. Here's what I
You
would
have
say.
to.
Here's what I would say. Talon have just made two very large changes to their team, right?
They made one very big change last year, and they fucking shot on Secret.
Yes, they did. They added Primy, and they played a little sloppy, and they still beat the piss out of Team Secret right when it was
A Team
mattered the
Secret that
most at
was
the end of
better
the year.
than the Secret we've seen thus far this year.
Yes, that's absolutely correct as well. Yep, that's no, everything you're saying is correct. It's a factual fact. But I think that Secret played particularly badly during kickoff. I'm expecting that to not be their average over the course of the entire year. I'm expecting that to have been a standout bad tournament for them. It was worse than anything they'd done throughout the whole of last year. So I'm expecting that to be unusual.
Imagine, so for how we feel about you now, to give you a perspective into how you sound, take what you just said and then apply that to like
Tracy Sports.
2G or Furia.
Not
then,
2G.
Yeah, wait,
2G
2G's too
didn't
far.
play last year.
Okay,
This is a team that
sure,
didn't change their roster.
Furia stands.
Didn't
How would
change.
you-
This team, the Furia, changed their roster and weren't good last year either.
I'm just saying the general vibe around what you're saying. I'm just like, this surely isn't going to be the average performance.
It
No,
would be
it's
more like,
honestly straight up what I sounded like before Tracy Sports' game. And I hate to break it to you, but they looked pretty bad. They looked worse, actually. So I
think I'm also coming at this from a slightly biased lens because all of last year,
You
even
hate
when they
Secret.
were doing well, I was saying that Secret
Yeah.
was not going to accomplish anything. So, for me, it's a little different.
Here's what I think is going to happen. Jesse Vash realizes that his son wants to play with him in 10 years' time. He activates dad mode, beast mode, destroys everybody in one of the maps, Envy activates for another map. I think that Secret, when we've seen them play well, when they've had their big upset results, it has been playing against more chaotic, fast-paced teams. I don't know that that is necessarily going to be how New Talon plays. Maybe they actually slow down compared to the previous version with Governor. But
yeah, but you're missing out on the other part of how they got these upsets in that it was a big upset. And technically on paper, this isn't supposed to be a big upset. So they're not
what do you
gonna
mean
win
it's not a big
historically.
upset? You were about to kick me off the show for picking Secret.
Well, because they're
Well,
bad
I-
right now. But
I
on
do wanna
paper,
actually-
they shouldn't be.
As much as I flamed you for it, I am glad this isn't a guarantee because you should never guarantee a talent game. You should literally never guarantee a talent game. They are just, you don't know if they're going to shit themselves. Like sometimes the humiliation kink improves them and sometimes it gets the better of them and they go,
I think a little stage shy.
and we don't know how the two new players will, deal with the humiliation kink. Frost is gonna tell it to Cruz, then Cruz is gonna have to translate it to Ty, and all the bad things that he's saying. And what does Cruz do? He's got a dilemma now, right? Do I make it a bit nicer, or do I, fully go in?
He might water it down. He might water down the feedback that's being given during the translation, which frequently happens, even on an unconscious level. And then they're not going to be sat there getting their humiliation king buff. Or maybe Cruz will double down and make it go even harder, and Kalua will just be sat there pissing his pants. You'll just see a little puddle underneath him on stage because he's getting berated that hard by the coach and the IGL. I'm taking a punt. I know that they're the underdogs, but I'm going for it.
I appreciate you doing so because it does avoid the guarantee.
Let's move on to the next game then. We'll see if we have a guarantee here. I feel like
Surely.
it's primed for one. It's Gen.G, who we ranked in the top 8, playing against Boom, the Ascension team. And no! You fraud! You knew there wasn't going to be a guarantee!
Unless he thought that we were all going boom.
Chobra has gone for Boom Esports. Chobra, how dare you come at me for predicting the upset with Team Secret and
Jen,
then
you gotta get out
do
your chair.
basically the exact same thing here?
We're gonna
This
take
is you're
turns.
going for it because Gen.G have made roster moves, right? Everything that I just said about Secret could just be applied to this.
I mean, he was talking about this earlier. He clearly did have, some advanced inside knowledge about the swaps here from Gen.G. So,
Yeah.
it seems like he thinks that it's going to be enough turmoil.
I don't think, well, for one, I don't think Gen.G is going to change much in terms of their actual play style, right? That's the only explanation they have for their roster moves, is that they don't want to change how they play. In which case, Boom should have beaten T1 at kickoff as well. And I think that was a big learning lesson for them on being able to close out the games where their ante is good. So I think that Boom has a shot.
But that wasn't T1. T1 at this point were not playing like they were when they won Bangkok.
Yeah, but were they not playing like they were because it was against Boom, or were they just?
Wow, he's giving Boom that.
Well, this was in the middle of the turmoil, I guess we could say, or like the whatever led to Sylvan's benching. So things were not clicking the same way that they were at Bangkok at this time.
My problem with this pick, though, Chobra, is for me to believe in this, I would have to believe that like Texture and Karen have like shit the bed and like had a bad game for this to happen.
Yeah.
Like if either one of them has a good game, I just don't.
Maybe do you know something? Is the Gen.G, is Arnold taking them skiing before this? Do you have inside knowledge about the
show up and their wrists are just snapped in half?
Oh yeah, are all their girlfriends on Instagram posting like skiing pictures?
They're participating in the wife carrying sport. They've injured themselves, they're throwing their back out.
I think you fucking fraud, Chobra. You're here representing. You're repping fucking Nongshim, a noodle company, and clearly all you care about in this world is Indomie. That's all you like because you are backing RRQ, you are backing Boom Esports, you are just a fucking inside agent for the Indonesian noodle industry, infiltrating the ranks of Nongshim to give industry secrets.
You can't out me like that, all right? This was the only way for me to get around the Nongshim firewall and support the Indonesian motherland, all right?
Fucking Manchurian candidate looking ass over here.
So, TMV, you went for Paper Eggs. I went for Secret. And then, Chobra, you've gone for Boom. Achilles, first of all, you can't even get a bigger upset than what's happening because the next game there really isn't a massive upset. But I want you. I want Achilles to weigh in. Who's got the craziest take of the three of us for the upset?
Ooh.
I mean, it's clearly you for going for Team Secret.
There's no way, man. Surely
it's definitely not me. It's definitely not me. It's one of you.
Yeah, there's just no way.
But
no one thinks it's Paper X because Paper X could just turn up. It's definitely one of you two.
I'm contractually obligated.
I also I do want to put it out there since Sideshow got to do a little footnote at the end of his part. I legitimately do think that there is a shot. Like whether it's the 30% minimum, whether it's 35%. No, I don't mean like in a miracle way. I do think because Boom's players, when they peak, they do peak. So I'm just saying, I think this could be that one game. And I don't think people should look at this as automatically Gen.G's going to play at the same power level that they have all year last year, because obviously it's not going to be the same roster. So
let's move on then to our final game. Now, this one, I would be incredibly surprised if it was a guarantee.
What the fuck has gone on?
Now,
we know who won. Well, do I know who Choba's going for?
We should know who Choba's going for because he's signed to Nongshim.
This is going to see if he's an agent or not. This is the ultimate test.
If there's any match that should tear Chobra's heart into pieces, it's this one. Nongshim playing against RRQ. And he's gone for Nongshim. And I'm the only person going for RRQ, for God's sake, man.
Yeah, but we won't berate you for this one.
But this one's almost a guarantee. I feel like this shouldn't have been... I guess, let's talk about how close it is then. For the Nongshim believers, do you feel confident about this one, or is it more coin flippy?
I feel decently confident about this one, to be honest. And I think it's not to do with RRQ's long-term prospects, but just given the recent changes that are occurring, I think that they're pretty staggering, and I think that there's going to be some, a bit of an adjustment period there, whereas Nongshim's just keeping everything the same. I think that they're at a fine enough point. I think that we've seen that, like, Neon, while not as busted as previously, is still very playable on a lot of different maps. You have Ascent coming back in, and like Nongshim runs like a very unique composition on that map as well that a lot of teams aren't going to have the most prep against. I think that they're just in an overall good spot. Also, Persia's my goat.
Yeah, he is very, very good.
Yeah. I would say it is more coin flippy. I did pick Nongshim because I think that the RQ changes might take a bit of time for them to kind of figure it out. I think Nongshim's ceiling is a bit higher than RRQ's as well. So I've kind of gone a bit off that. I mean, this is very strange though. Normally the person who is picked the only team, normally they go first. So why have you picked RRQ?
Well, okay, fair enough. Now, what the problem is, I'm going to add so many caveats into this because I do think it's more coin flippy. Like I went back and forth on this a bunch. So it's not that I'm strong about RRQ necessarily, but let's start here. I forgot to take the RRQ roster changes even into consideration. I was just thinking about their kickoff performance. But I don't know that that's going to make that much of a difference either way. Maybe it will a little bit, especially if Cushy changes his role and he goes to flex. I'll be more worried because what I've already seen from Cushy playing on Initiator is so good, I don't want to mess with it, to be honest with you. I could see the long-term reasoning why you might want to do something like that. But for this match, I'm hoping he comes out just playing the Sova or the hard Initiator. But the reason that I didn't go with Nongshim, I've been quite Nongshim pilled all year, but the meta, I think, is going pretty hard away from them. And I have yet to see evidence, though, again, I'm told frequently by Chobra, and I'm sure he'll tell me again,
In
that
fact,
this team...
they
this
just
team
posted
can
a highlight
play.
reel of Dombi playing Jet in solo queue just yesterday.
I believe
I would
that
prefer
they
if it
did
was
that.
Yoru than Jet, to be honest. I'm
But
not sure that's helping them.
the only map that I saw them not play their trademark neon fade style was Bind. I can't remember who they played it against, but there was poo all over the bed sheets. It was horrendous. It was disastrously executed from the macro, from the understanding of the comp, to the micro of how they were actually playing it. It was very poor. So until they put some evidence on the table against tier 1 competition that they can play the new meta or a different meta well, I'm going to believe in their opponents.
I still will say that I feel like this is one of the few teams that can bring Waylay to the table and make it look really good. Like, I think that this is a team that could do those setups similar to like DRX with their just heavy execute style. I feel like in the hands of Dombi with the backing of the rest of the squad on Nongshim, this is one of the teams that could just randomly make Waylay look like she's the most broken agent in the game.
I just want Seth and TMV to know that we'll be stripping a box of Shin Ramyun to their addresses while Sideshow just never gets to
I
taste
thought
the
you were going to
goodness.
say, I just want money from my so
I picked them because they pay me. They paid me to pick them.
But I will happily take the Shin Ramen. Please, the red. I would like the red specifically.
I do want to say it's interesting because I actually think this is a scarier matchup for Nongshim because of Crazy Guy, if that's true. I actually think Crazy Guy's IGLing style will be very good against a team like Nongshim because Crazy Guy likes to kind of wait and then respond, right? And Nongshim generally likes to charge, headlong in. And so after a couple rounds or after a little bit of, studying, the ante should be pretty easily acquired for Crazy Guy. So I actually think that benefits RRQ if that's the true move. But I also just think, I don't know, the agent changes and whatnot does actually benefit Nongshim quite a bit. I think, like you said, Sideshow, they did have a very eye-opening experience at kickoff, right? Where they can't just get by with aim and crazy movement. But the deadlock is buffed. They used to love the deadlock. Ivy's a great deadlock player. And I think, if they kind of shy away from playing too much Neon, I think they'll be good. But at the end of the day, I think they'll probably break another overtime record, and it'll be a good match.
Please, God.
Are you
forget if I'm
casting that
casting
day?
this series. I think I am.
Great.
I mean, fuck it.
Let's
At
go
that
for it.
point, like, we might as well. Just send it. Let's go 27-25.
There you go.
That would be incredible. Now, we've also done bold predictions. We've attempted to predict.
I don't even remember. What
I don't
did
even
for this.
remember.
I don't remember any of this.
Do you before we unveil who the bold predict? So let me explain. We did our bold predictions for who we thought was going to be the stage 1 winner in Pacific. Do you think it's based on what we've seen in Valorant over the history of the game? Do you think that it's possible to know who's going to be good based off the beginning of the year? Like in Americas, for example, I think it was 100 Thieves won stage 1, wasn't it? Last year, something like that. Anyway,
Yeah, something like that.
Yes, they did.
Do you think you can make informed decisions at this point? Do you think there's enough data from kickoff to know like who's going to win stage 1?
Not winners. I think you can know. Yeah, I think you can get a pool of 3 or 4 teams.
Right.
I feel like we've had just surprises at every twist and turn globally. Like, I mean, last year we didn't see Gen.G being the #1 team in the region either. So there's just been so much just flux between all the different teams.
And as a reminder, T1 did just win Bangkok and become the best team in the world.
You're saying
by
this
winning
because
that
you haven't
trophy.
picked T1. I know you haven't picked T1 because you hate T1.
Maybe other people haven't picked T1 either. Shall we
see?
What's Achilles?
Oh, this is completely off. I was just like, is that like a Barbie vinyl on a shelf behind your head?
Yeah, it's a Barbie calendar. It's a Barbie calendar from the hit movie Barbie. You have a problem with that?
The movie, yeah.
Okay. It just caught my eye, and I was like, "The fuck is going on back there?" Like,
oh right, like you don't have a bunch of nerd shit in your background.
Is Barbie is one of the highest grossing movies in a long time?
Nowhere did I say that I didn't have nerd shit in my background. I was just curious as to what you had going on in your background. That's all.
Let's
trying to beat the allegations of a woman here. That's all it is.
Let's have a look at the bold predictions.
Him.
Oh, sideshow. Oh, yeah. In that case, fully understandable. Tory and all that. Anyway, continue.
Let's have a look at our bold predictions. This is who we think are going to win stage 1 in Pacific, like a month and a bit out. Our bold predictions are: we all have different teams.
Wow.
Paper Rex! You didn't even pick Paper Rex!
Let's start with this. Audio listeners, Achilles has gone with T1. The only person to go with the Masters Bangkok winner. TMV's gone with Gen.G. Okay, amazing last year. I've gone with DRX, who won kickoff. All with some level of logic behind it. Chobra's gone with Paper X.
What do you mean logic?
Well, go on then.
Has logic.
What's the Paper X logic?
I think that their firepower will come together, and just like last year, they'll bounce back, and they've prepped right after having a rough start to the year, and then they'll just
starting 0-1 according to you.
Yeah, they will start 0-1. And then they'll really wake up and they'll continue to win.
It's been a good week of being signed to Nongshim Chobra, but I think you don't pick them to be the winners.
I mean,
we've all picked
Nongshim
Korean
teams.
A bold
prediction because that's the given. Nongshim is winning stage 1, but that wouldn't be the bold prediction.
The spin,
I see.
The spin is crazy.
That is fair. I did not go for that bold of one. I mean, some might consider it just given T1's form leading into Bangkok, but I was hungover when Kurt asked me to send this in, and I just went with T1, to be perfectly honest. I just couldn't be asked to really put my brain power to use, so I just said, yeah, we'll just go with them.
Well, now that you're not hungover, and don't correct me if you're not.
Don't assume things.
We don't know that. What do you think the chances are of T1 doing a repeat? Do you think they're the kind of team that's going to be able to, ride a very consistent rhythm throughout this year?
I would guess that there's going to be some dips and struggles along the way, but I think that them being able to really work Sylvan back in is a huge boon. It makes me believe in the longevity of the team quite a bit. But I've also just been like, man, I shouldn't bet against Buzz ever again. He's just so fucking good. And Meteor, that as a duo is just insane. Because last year they were two of the most dominant players from the region. Like you'd have, Texture, Charon kind of into that mix, but Meteor and Buzz were just huge in their team's performances last season, and now that they're together, I think that's just a damn near unstoppable duo.
Gen.G. Give me the Gen.G cope.
Texture's the GOAT. Karen's the controller GOAT. Munchkin is a great IGL, and the 2 new players coming in will be good.
Huge effort put into that one.
Yeah.
Incredible amounts of effort. Love that.
No, but
I have to disagree with you.
Why?
On one front, it's specifically, which is that Karen is the controller GOAT, because Sideshow is actually back to the controller GOAT.
Sorry? Oh, what?
He's not saying that you're the controller GOAT.
Yeah, I know.
He's fucking crazy. He's saying Mako is.
You predicted
He's not saying you. Don't worry about it, son. He wasn't talking about you.
I was like, wow, you've really been watching my games.
Yes.
Really hasn't.
With my eyes closed.
If he thought that.
I mean, Mako's got the longevity for sure. I think that DRX are currently positioned in the best spot because I think they're Players, their meta read, everything is working fantastically, apart from the experience that they brought to the tier 1 level. Once they actually got to internationals, I mean. So I'm down for it being a DRX. Dude, the next evolution of the DRX story is crazy. DRX are back to dominating Pacific, but they're still gonna finish 5th to 6th at the international events. It's like a requel. Is that what they call it when you like reboot the
Requel.
yeah, you like
called a
reboot the
reboot.
franchise?
Or a soft reboot.
Yeah, well, that's what they're going for then. It's not a sequel. They're restarting it with everybody apart from Mako, but they're just doing the same good storylines that we got at the beginning of.
Termy starts wearing
2021.
suits again, and we're all just fucked.
Well, I think that does it then for us. Those are the games to look forward to. Again, if you are part of our community, you can have a look at the tab on YouTube to predict between PaperX and DRX. That's our match of the week in Pacific. Feel free to join and become a member, and you can ask us questions and stuff like that. But
Stick it to him, everyone. Vote PaperX.
Boo. Well, thank you, Achilles and Chobra, for joining us. We're going to go on to talking about some America's stuff. So we're going to sub in Mimi and Dryad. But I appreciate it. What can we find you doing this week? Are you going to be casting Achilles and you're going to be co-streaming Chobra? Is that what's happening?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, they just took a week off.
I don't know about
I
him.
don't know.
He
Yeah,
doesn't sound
I'll-
confident that he's casting, but I will be ghost streaming.
I'll be on Saturday. I'm not sure. I might have to swap days. I might do Saturday, Sunday. We'll see.
To avoid me.
Just
I have
like,
a- I have
I'll
a
fucking
potential-
turn up when I want.
Potential. All right, no, not this week. I'm not swapping. It would be next week. Sorry. Yeah, I'm casting Saturday and Monday is what I'm gonna do. Sorry, I have my brother-in-law's birthday is like next weekend, so like my wife is asking if I could swap days, so that's why the confusion's coming in.
I see.
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, I'll see you guys then.
And Chobra, you're going to be doing China as well as Pacific? Or how are you managing that?
I'll be watching the China games on Thursday, Friday at the very least because there's no overlap. And then over the weekend, we might hop back and forth, but obviously I'll focus mostly on Pacific. I'll also be streaming Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition because that's coming out on Thursday.
Okay. Awesome. Great little plug
In that
for
case,
that.
catch me casting Marvel Rivals, kids. Friday mornings on fucking whatever.
I thought it was Bren that was going to a new game. I didn't realize we were losing people left, right, and center.
And Chris is like,
you
get
guys,
the
so I'm
fuck
gonna
out.
push
Get the
this shit
fuck out,
along. Get the fuck out of here. I need
You've
to go
been
to
played
the
off like at the
bathroom.
Oscars.
Get
Yeah,
the fuck
Jesus.
out of here.
All right, GG. Thanks for having me.
See ya.
Bye.
All right, bye.
Like I said, we're going to be back in a bit with Mimi and Dryad to talk about Americas.
Who's hosting this? I was initially the host of Americas when it was 3 parts.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what Kurt wanted.
It's up to. Would you like to host? You're very welcome to.
What's in the Americas section? I mean, you three work on Americas, so it does make some sense, doesn't it?
Well, you know what? You can do what you like. If you want to host,
We're gonna
you
double
can
host?
Well, no, we can't double host. That would get very confusing, wouldn't it? But you can run the ship if you like, Captain TMV.
Yeah, why not? Let's do it. Let's get chaotic. Get weird with it.
What is the name of the helmsman? Is that what they call the person who like steers a ship? The ruddersman? What do they call the person who's like classically on a
Captain?
Well, but they're sometimes just giving the orders, aren't they? Are they always the person? Surely they're not always the person that's like actively working on the helm or the rudder.
I mean, unlike many people, I don't own a boat. I understand you are a Tory.
I don't own
So
a boat.
you-
If I did own a boat, I wouldn't be asking these questions, would I? I'd be giving you the answers.
I don't know. You are quite dumb.
Allegedly, it's helmsman, according to the chat.
Yeah.
So there you go.
You'd be the quartermaster, like docking everyone's wages. That's what you'd be.
Giving people English food, jellied eels, and
Yeah, little
ship's
jellied eels.
biscuits.
Oh, is that a muted Mimi? Is there meant to be some music? Hello?
I think Kurt needed the pee, so I don't know whether he played the music. I think he just ran.
left us. What?
The ship's biscuit stuff. No, I haven't actually. It's like super, super dehydrated flour. And
it's just like a hard biscuit, a very hard biscuit. I made it at home once. It was pretty hard.
What a review.
Yeah.
was
I mean,
it tasty though?
It tastes like stale bread, but hard.
Couldn't you put a bunch of spices in it to make it taste good?
Well, you tend not to have those on a ship.
Well, but you make it beforehand. You don't make it on the ship necessarily, do you? I thought the whole point of it being dry was so you could store it.
Yeah,
for a long
no.
time.
You are right about that. You are right about that. But I mean, I had it the first time when we were doing like the Civil War unit in my school, and we went out to some like military camp thing, and they fed us hardtack.
We had potato biscuits because that's what the people on rations were eating. in
Right,
World
let's
War
stop
II.
talking about biscuits. Let's get into
What are you guys
let's get
talking
into some
about?
Valorant
We're
talk.
talking about
Welcome.
hardtack.
Let's welcome to Americas. I will not have all these deviants trying to ruin my show. And it is my show now. Welcome to Mimi and Dryad. It's nice to have you both here. Nice to, balance it out with two wonderful people coming onto the show.
What does that mean?
Great start.
Are you just outing yourself as a piece of shit there? Is that the...
I'm saying that if people were to rank who the best people are in terms of their morals, you would be a low fourth. I would probably come higher, and then probably Mimi and Dryad. I mean, that's
I
just,
think
that's
I'm
just how I see
definitely
it.
more immoral than Josh.
I mean,
There you
Mimi
go.
has talked before about wanting to take over cities
No,
and
no,
expel
no,
the
no,
poor.
no,
so-
no, no.
Okay.
That's not what I said. And you know it's not what I said.
Very similar.
Okay, well let's divulge from Mimi's past, and talk about something that isn't controversial in the slightest. The Esports World Cup has been announced, and there's been some big changes to the Esports World Cup Club Program. Now, Sideshow, I'm going to say that you're a resident expert in all things depravity and things that are bad. So you perhaps know the most about this. Explain to the people what's going on.
Yeah, I love to wallow around in the filth, so I've really gotten into this. So the Esports World Cup Club Program does not mean that all of these teams are going to be playing in the Valorant competition. We'll talk about the format later on, but these are the people who are directly taking money from Esports World Cup to fund extra rosters, basically. So they had 30 teams last year, I believe, and now they have 40. So they've increased it by 10. And that means that a lot of Valorant teams have now come in, especially because Riot have allowed Valorant and League and TFT to have another 3 years, basically, have been partnered with the EWC. So we now have, just to list them, there's the Chinese organizations of Edward Gaming, Bilibili, JDG, and All Gamers. And Wolves as well, actually. Sorry, Wolves. Yeah, of course. Chinese organization, not a Wolverhampton organization. I always get confused about that. So that's 5 orgs from China who reportedly, Tencent worked with figuring out which orgs should be able to partner with them, which I don't know why it required Tencent to be the connective tissue there, but I assume it's just because China's a bit more locked down. And then the other regions, you've got Zeta, Gentlemates, Leviathan, Sentinels, and RRQ joined this. With, weirdly enough, NRG and Talon have left. And I don't know why they've left. Because if you're going to go into it for 1 year, why would you not be trying to get the most money out of it you can? Because you've already said at that point that you're fine with what's going on, basically.
Sure.
So for some reason, NRG and T1 are no longer in this. And what this is that you're participating in the Esports World Cup, but more so, you're also getting funding from them. They have $20 million that they will give to organizations based on their how much they need the money, basically. So they could split it evenly and just give them all 500K. But they're supposed to be stipends for picking up rosters. We don't have a Valorant roster, but we really want to compete in the Valorant tournament. I guess Valorant's a bad example here, but we don't have a Rocket League team and we want to participate in the Rocket League tournament or something like that. And so they give them funds to be able to pick up teams. Now, they also, by joining it, probably saddle you with stuff like non-disparagement clause and ask that you give that to your players and stuff as well. Whether or not that's a reality hasn't been reported on, but that's the kind of thing that Saudi does very, very regularly with their contracting. And basically, these organizations are just like slightly more heavily tied to it and directly receiving funding rather than just being able to participate and play for the prize money that's at the esports.
Yeah, Kurt, I sent you the Sen Rob Moore statement if you want to get that up, which kind of, gives you kind of a bit of an insight as to, why a team, might want to join this kind of club program. They mention in it, like, it's going to allow them to make extra rosters for, other esports titles and take part of it, and branch out from where they already are. So those are some of the reasons why. Here it is, yeah. So today, as you have seen, Sentinels was testing my eyes, was announced as a partner team with Esports World Cup Foundation, the organizing body of the Esports World Cup. This opportunity not only provides substantial resources to help expand our brand, but it also enables us to join some of the world's most recognized teams and further diversify our competitive portfolio, extending our reach. Beyond Valorant challenges and Marvel rivals. Sentinels will be seeking players or teams looking to become a part of the org in time for the Esports World Cup 2025. Sentinels will aim to sign 1 to 2 additional teams, interested parties, blah, blah, blah. On a personal note, I want to ensure this brand becomes one of the biggest in the world so that we will continue to expand. This partnership is one of the very few in esports that allows that reality.
I mean,
what do we think of that?
Credit to the Saudis when it comes to, like, me when I'm in a sports washing competition and the Saudis are my opponent. I'm fucking cooked. I'm not gonna lie. Like, they've set this up in a very good way to build the incentives that it's hard for an org to turn down this money. Sponsorship deals aren't what they used to. Money from like partnered leagues and stuff. Like, there's not a lot of opportunities like that around. So they've basically given a deal that's super hard for orgs to turn down in the financial situation that is currently
Yeah,
in.
also something that I've noticed with, for example, Lev getting in is looking at the way that they made the announcement and looking at the comments, and there's always like this it feels like for South America there's not really a full understanding of what is going on. Just ignore my cat, don't worry about it. Hold up.
Wait, that cat is so big.
No.
No, Dryad's just really small.
Dryad.
Okay.
That's not a puma.
She's just chilling. Anyways, they just don't. I feel like reading the comments, people don't really have an understanding of what this really is, like what the esports World Cup is, where it is, where the money's coming from. Like, reading this, it just sounds like only positive for the region. And I think any team, if they were to make an announcement there, like South America, like Brazil, like Crew, whatever, it would have been the same reaction. And it's just like, I don't know, that's crazy to me. It's always been like that. I think there's things that get canceled generally, and they just don't get to South America. Like, people don't know why that's a bad thing.
Sure. I do want to kind of touch on I think that though is a bit more of just an issue of like getting the word out there, I suppose, onto what the ramifications of some of these decisions are. That's not like a thing with, that's a problem for South America necessarily. But I do see a lot of people who already know about it just being like, well, what do you think? They're corporations. They're always going to act based on their profit incentive. But I do want to point out that like the community spams constantly about the lack of a replay viewer. No matter where you are, whether it's on TikTok, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's in the live streams, anywhere, there is constant spam about a replay viewer in every aspect of social media, trying to apply pressure to Riot to put a replay viewer into the game. And then when it comes to this kind of stuff, the community's just instead of using the same kind of idea of like, we just need to spam about this because it's actually really important, they're like justifying the decision, like, well, of course they're partnering with a government that commits horrendous human rights abuses because it aligns with their profit motives. Oh, motherfucker, of course they're not releasing a replay client because it doesn't align with their profit motives. Not like, sometimes you might want things that a company is not profit motivated to do, and then you use different levers. Kronk, pull the fucking morality lever and try and apply some pressure. And there is some level of cognitive dissonance here, I think, with the community about the way that corporations react. to public image stuff. They do care really heavily about public image stuff, whether this is Riot or whether this is corporations like the organizations, because public image translates directly into stuff like fans, player base, viewer base, which means money, by the way, down the line. It just doesn't mean like cash in hand right now. And there is, by the way, that kind of money is way higher than what you get through these kind of partnerships. Like Riot, the amount of money that Riot makes by having an active player base that enjoys the game and wants to play it and buy the skins is way higher than what they're making through EWC. We're not even talking in the same ballpark here. So if your worldview is that companies only operate based on the profit, then you got to ask the other question too of like, why is Saudi wasting so much money then on esports and traditional sports? Like, what's in it for them? Because they're turning around their PR and helping build up their tourism industry in like an indirect way. They want the long-term tourism growth by exchanging their money now for public relations repair in the short term. And that could work the opposite way around for Riot. You're trading public relations and your image right now for money now, and in 5 years from now, fucking exclamation mark remind me 5 years on Reddit, guys. In 5 years from now, the Olympics are going to be running for Saudi. Shooting games are not going to be allowed. Valorant, bye-bye. Thank you for helping us set up and get the legitimacy. Bye-bye. The Olympics isn't going to allow us to be there. Bye-bye. And so Saudi's just going to run off with all of the games that actually are allowed at the Olympics. Not going to be giving any money out to the teams that are involved in the Valorant sphere. And what's so important about all of this too is the orgs don't need the fucking money. They don't need the money right now. If you look, I linked a thing in the document, right, about Team Liquid. Team Liquid were doing a report or an interview rather, and if you just Control F Lifeline, that'll get you to the right paragraph, which is the interviewer asked them like, do you see this as a really important thing that you've got to be a part of? And Steve Arnese, who's in charge of Team Liquid, says, as Team Liquid, we don't see this as a lifeline for esports. We managed to profitability during the esports winter prior to esports World Cup. If you're not familiar, the esports winter was like 2020, basically, through to 2024 or 5. I mean, people will maybe argue that it's still ongoing at the moment. But a lot of orgs, especially involved in Valorant, have actually had a lot of really good success going towards profitability because of Valorant. And he says, now that we've locked second place, we will be awarded $4 million in club championship revenue. All of that is profit. It's excess for us this year. Motherfucking, they do not need the money. They are saying to you, oh, but we really have to support the dictators, guys, because we're a sad little esports company and we're so small and we'll die if we don't. Fucking lies. Fucking lies. So, and you have it there from the horse's mouth, literally. So it's just fucking greed.
I appreciate that. I don't know if you intentionally made it the Team Liquid horse's mouth.
I know.
That was good. That was good. It wasn't lost on me.
The thing is too, like the money that this is going to, at least like if you look back at Sentinel's statement too, they're not saying this is going to go to like improve any of our existing teams, anything like that. Like they're saying the plan with the money is to pick up new teams expressly for EWC and to get the profit off of that on top. So this, by the way,
they dropped a lot of those teams last time. Like one of the reasons that Esports World Cup was unhappy with a lot of the teams they partnered with was because those teams would use the money, pick up the rosters, and then drop them immediately afterwards.
Yeah.
So sometimes it doesn't even have long-term benefits.
And that's what I was going to bring up, right? That like this is a short-term money injection for these teams, a way for them to like get involved in more esports and build their brand. Exactly what Rob is saying. It's like, we want this to be a global thing. We want this to be the biggest esports org ever. Wow. But once the Saudi money gets cut off, like how are you going to continue to have these teams? Like what is the point in the long term? Because it's kind of tough to see that. But for all the Valorant teams, I mean, they're getting stipends from Riot. They're getting money from Riot to support their operations. So more likely than not, like what they're going to do with this money, like you're saying, Josh, is either going to be profit or like picking up more teams to try and further their relationships with the Saudis.
I do just want to point out that it is important to like make money as an org. That is one of the things that we do want organizations to be doing long term. We're living within a capitalist society, guys. So we do want like the orgs to not just be essentially charity, giving money to the players and hoping they'll grow at some point. But because the orgs don't need the money right now, because they're not in the depths of esports window, because a lot of the orgs are actually doing like all right, and as you heard from Liquid, it's just going into pure profit. Keeping as broad a fan base as possible and keeping as many players available to join you, keeping as many fans out there that still want to be fans of you as possible, that's more important because you want growth. You want the better public image for potential growth opportunities in the future. You don't want to try to cut that off at the knees in order to make a like short-term business deal with somebody. I fundamentally believe, even if you leave the morals aside, this is just bad business for these orgs and for Valorant to be involved here. I think it's really short-term thinking.
Yeah, this has infected multiple parts of my life because Newcastle just won their first trophy in 70 years, and they're owned by the Saudis. The Newcastle Football Club, like recently, you know, a couple of years ago, got bought by the Saudi government, essentially, you know, who are pretending not to be the Saudi government, you know, for legal reasons. But yeah, so this is just infecting like so many parts of our life, and I think it's so, as you say, kind of like the Liquid. I don't know if he's the CEO or whoever he is in Liquid, but like saying that like out loud that like, oh, we don't, you know, like if you know we didn't really need it, like we don't really desperately need it, like it does kind of just take away like everything. Like there is no leg to stand on then, really, is there? Because like you could maybe make, you know, some justification of like, without this money we would literally die, so our choice is die or take the money, you know, what are we gonna do? But like that's, they said that's not the choice that they're making, so the justification, you know, becomes very, very flimsy very, very fast.
The question is for some of these orgs, like what is the line? Like, okay, I understand that some people really don't give a shit about what Saudi are doing in Saudi Arabia. They don't care about Saudi citizens. They don't care about the women being treated as minorities within their own country. Okay, all right. Where, like, would you take money from the Israeli government while they're bombing the fuck out of Gaza and ethnically cleansing the Palestinians? Okay, maybe some people would. Maybe some people are super on board with that, and they're like heavy Zionists. Are you going to take money from like fucking Pol Pot when he's just massacring people? Like, where's the fucking, like, where's the line? At some point, there's got to be something where a majority of people agree it's not okay to be either like backing this this group of people or this government or whatever it is. And you're not always going to get everybody on board, but the line is like actually really far out there right now. It's really far out there. We're not just talking about like companies and corporations. We're talking about governments actively involved with massive human rights abuses. Again, like a couple of years ago, gunning down Ethiopian immigrants at the border and like throwing grenades at them to get rid of them. These are absolutely mad things, and the same people in charge of the companies are the same people in charge of the government. It's not, there's no level of disconnection there. It is wild.
It's wild too, because like you go back to that article and it just feels so disconnected from reality. I'm talking about the Team Liquid one, because he's like, wow, I mean, this is such a great thing. Scroll up to just below the last picture, or sorry, back down a little bit to that first paragraph after the picture. Yeah, there we go. All the way up to the Crown Prince, MBS. He's a gamer. He plays League of Legends. He loves it. His country, Saudi Arabia, has a population where nearly 70% of the population is under 29. That interest has developed in a way where one of the largest, biggest prize money tournaments has been put on. And it's just like reading stuff like that is just, it feels like they're just reading out of the book of exactly what the fucking Saudis want to push through. No, MBS, he's not running a country that's propagating massive human rights violations, that has modern slavery in their country where women are second-class citizens. No, he's a guy that's so cool, and he plays League of Legends. He actually plays top lane. Have you seen MBS's Heimerdinger? And it's like, dude, first of all, that makes me like him even fucking less. He's a League player, and he's doing the human rights abuses. Like, what the fuck's the point? Like, oh.
If you want to sell it to a Valorant audience, I mean, you could just say, I mean, you don't want to like this guy, he's a League player.
If you don't want a League player running your fucking esport Valorant Andes, fucking push back on this shit. Get mad at the orgs.
Do you okay, but do you think that's gonna be possible? It just seems like from everything that I hear, like this is where we're gonna be headed, and I mean, so many people are disagreeing, but at the same time, it just feels like the majority just don't care. Like, they just don't care. They just want to see their teams play. So is there a stop, or is this just how it's gonna be?
Well, here's what I would say is that if there was going to be a stop, it would have come with pressuring Riot, because Riot really held the cork.
Keys, yeah.
That now you've pulled the cork, and all of the different orgs, even if one of the orgs was particularly like they had a woke image or whatever and it backlashed super heavy on them, okay, well, there'd just be another org ready to step in. So it really should have come, I think, at the point where Riot decided to pull the plug. But you're right. I think most people just don't give a shit about this kind of stuff. I think where it's actually going to matter is when you see that the tournament itself isn't even good. Like, I think it's a very decent chance that this is viewed as a bit of a Mickey Mouse run, but a lot of the orgs are talking about it like it's amazing because it's got a crazy prize pool. And what you see in other esports is the dissonance between that is so weird, because you're playing for millions, but you're playing like a really shit format where the winner...
Well, shall we get onto that?
Sure.
Shall we talk about the format, because that was also announced. So as you kind of mentioned, there was how many Valorant orgs are there? 24 or something, I think, overall of the tier 1 orgs are in the kind of partnered club. But it's only going to be 12 teams that are gonna take part in this, or is it 16 teams who are going to take part in this? Look like that.
Yeah, it looks like 16, right? With 4 groups of 4 is what this is.
Yeah, and so it's going to take place from the 8th of July to July 13th, which should be after Masters Toronto, but just before Stage 2. Although I looked at the calendar, like if you just type in like VCT 2025 calendar, it does have a date starting of Stage 2 of the 12th of July. Now, I'm not sure if that is fully accurate, and maybe they've moved it, but that would be funny if some of the teams do make it to like the Esports World Cup final and then can't play.
Just the tonal dissonance of the discussion, and then just the cat doing this.
Do you not have like a cat tree for the cat to play on or something? Why is the cat trying to climb you?
I have 2, but they don't care. They just like being on top of the fucking chair. I don't know. She just does this all the time, especially when I'm on camera. That's like, this is the right time to do it.
It's anticipation now. What's going to happen next? Oh,
What?
I know.
My other cat just pulled up.
That's really good.
Anyway, maybe let's try and go back to the format.
If you want to look at the format, 4 groups of 4. I don't know about it overlapping with stage 2. Maybe it will, and maybe they'll give them like a week buy, and it'll fuck up VCT ever so slightly. But really, what we're looking at here is additional burnout. We're looking at high incentives for teams and players to go. So even though Riot is like, no, it's optional. Is it fuck optional when there's millions of dollars on the line? Have you ever been to work? Have you ever had a job and somebody says, oh, this contract is worth millions and millions, you better not fuck it up? But, it's optional if you want to, but it's worth millions. The format itself, though, is... I don't even know how they're going to do it. I mean, look at it. The first day, they've got 12 matches.
Yeah, there's going to be a ton of games on at the same time, surely.
Is that a BO1? Is that an A, B, C, and D stream? If it is an A, B, C, and D stream, are they even going to get enough casters that want to work the event out there?
Even if it's 12 matches of best of 1, that's an insanely long day, like getting it shuffling teams in and out as well.
12 matches in one day. I mean, you've never seen a format like that. Not since the days of like running round of 64s or whatever in open qualifiers for VCT. And then you've got group stage, quarterfinal, semifinal. So it's a single elim tournament after that as well. We also don't know how you qualify or get in. Presumably, if you do well at Toronto, you're actually not going to want to participate. Probably, but again, with the amount of money on the line, they'll probably just force the players to anyway.
Yeah.
So, listen, I know I don't like it anyway, but it is a shit format.
Are they gonna
even if we have a good run in tournament? I would say no. We don't. I feel like all the players would want to play anyways.
They will if they're getting a cut of the prize pool.
Yeah.
If the org said we're taking all the prize pool and you don't get paid anymore, the players are not going to want to participate. Yeah.
Anyway, shall we move on from this and talk about lighter things?
I just real quick, how are they going to do replays? Like, they needed so many observers, they need a ton of EVS operators. Like, are they going to be able to get
To
that many
my
people?
understanding from the past, they contract out to like someone who does the broadcast for everything, and I imagine they'll have non-Valorant specific just operators that
that's
that
gonna be
fly out
great.
for it.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
I mean,
so the observing will be
if
up
you,
class.
I mean, maybe they'll hire specific observers, but generally for these kind of big picture things, they hire out to one production company who gets a big ass contract and kind of does the whole run. So generally the production quality for each individual thing will not be as high. One last note before we move on also is like in Rainbow Six Siege, they they started a couple of years ago. Same way we did, kind of whittling it in, like, oh, a couple orgs are joining the partnership thing. They did this. They had one event. It was kind of unsuccessful. They did it the next year, and it was like pretty good. And then now it's a fucking major in their calendar every year to do this Saudi event, and it's replacing one of their major tournaments. Siege, different esport, different financial position, but just as a fucking reminder, like those are the stakes here. It's like if you love Valorant esports and you want to fucking watch the best teams play, you want to go and see these Masters tournaments in cool new locations every year. There is a future if things don't change where something like that could happen here too, and that's beyond any of the moral stuff. Is also what's at stake. You want fucking Masters Riyadh every year? Well, here's your chance.
But presumably it might not even necessarily be the best teams. Like if the teams that are good in Valorant one year aren't partnered,
yes,
it won't be the best teams, right? Like some of the best teams will probably certainly get left out every year.
Yeah, and as far as we know, Riot doesn't have plans for that yet, but there's always the future. So
and also, again, if you have the argument that companies should do everything to align with their profit incentives, then that is the best decision for Riot to make, because it takes their cost of running an event, which is millions, off their books, and instead they give it to Saudi every year, and they say, all right, well, we'll just get rid of M2, we'll get rid of Toronto, we'll get rid of Tokyo, we'll get rid of Shanghai, and we'll give you EWC instead every year. And again, if you're defending this because it aligns with the profit incentive of companies, you can't expect them to do anything else, then that's what you would be advocating for here. It's just so obviously worse for the scene overall. And this is where I think, bringing back to your point, Dryad, of like what can actually be done in these kind of situations, individual players have crazy amounts of power. I know that like playing in a tournament like this for a large amount of money, you're going to want to do it a lot of the time because a lot of players are very like money and fame oriented, or maybe not fame, maybe that's the wrong way of putting it, but like success oriented, right? And this is another tournament that you can attend. But if you're burnt out, or if you have some kind of genuine qualm against it, you do actually have a lot of power to just say, nah, fuck off. Especially if you talk to your team and you all agree that that's the case. And then if you're a caster or if you're an observer or something like that, and you don't attend and the tournament is objectively worse, that is actually what people care about. Like, people in the community do not care that women and trans people and gay people are treated badly in Saudi Arabia. They just don't. But if the tournament that they enjoy watching is shit, they will care and they will scream and piss their pants about it. Bad world, but that's the reality.
That's the world we live
So
in.
that's one of the ways in which I could see a bit of a backlash to it, is if the tournament itself is whack.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, one NFL player took a knee and it was the biggest story in the world for like 6 months.
How dare he? How dare he?
Yeah. Okay. But let's finally move on to the second part of the great Initiator Shuffle of 2025. Now, thankfully, we have this is mostly affecting South America teams, and we have a South American expert on the show. So, Kurt, take it away.
I'm gonna.
I'm like, wait, where is this going?
I'm gonna send it over to Dan.
Yes, Dryad, talk me through MIBR. Verno out. Verno in, Noswa out.
So
Verno's already been out of one team.
I gotta say, like, to start it off, this makes no sense to me. Not only, okay, you're getting Noswer out, who he said and the team said that by the last couple of matches he was not IGLing anymore. It was Artin. So, okay, he doesn't have his IGL powers anymore. Maybe his value goes down in the team. That's fine. And you get him out. And I know that he was not performing the best. But Verno in, for a Brazilian team that speaks Portuguese, and that they always say, you go and try to interview them in English, they're like, no, I can't do that. How are they communicating with Verno? this seems like a decision that was like the easiest one to get because you don't need to get a visa for a Brazilian player, more than like something that was well thought out. And yeah, a few of the players, obviously Aspas can communicate in English. She did it last year for left, but I feel like something had to go down with Noswer, and then it was just like, okay, who can we get? Oh, Verna's available. Let's get him. That's how it feels.
Well, my question to you as well, Dryad, would be though, the stories that we had from last year on Lev, and then obviously with MIBR, kind of, this is Aspas's team.
Yeah.
But did Aspas not want to play with This is where I'm finding a disconnect.
Is the Aspas joy buff gone?
Yes, he wanted to play with Noswer. But
Yeah.
if he wanted to play with Noswer, why is Noswer not on the team, even if Noswer isn't doing as well or isn't IGLing?
I mean, it seems by the way that they talk publicly about it, it just seems like Aspas just said like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I had to make this," or like, "We had to make this decision as a team." But it just
If
seems
you
like
said I had to make this decision, like
it was like
some like evil villain, like,
we
straight,
all
you
know.
need your cat.
Did he old yeller Noswer out back the Riot Games arena? Like what?
It was like, yeah, I'm sorry that this is the decision that we all had to make. It was like on a tweet, the tweet that he made responding to Noswer saying that he was gone. So it just seems like it was an agreement with the whole team. At least Aspas made a comment, and then one or two more players. But yeah, I guess once they play together, they realize it's not what they expected, or what Aspas expected, or what the team expected. I don't know. I know that Noswer was underperforming compared to last year, compared to what he was doing before, and what he's always been pretty good. But this year he struggled a little bit. Like,
but they also made top 3, and like he wasn't great, but it wasn't like he was atrocious. It's like it feels weird that it's something performance based after, but I don't know.
Well, yeah, because it already happened 2 times where Noswer gets kicked from a team kind of out of nowhere, and this one was obviously much nicer than Christmas, but it still does feel weird. I don't.
Yeah, they dropped him on Easter instead. All good. Less important holiday. It's fine.
Let's look at the other side. I'm going to ask you, Sideshow.
Yeah.
What about the Verno side of things? What are your expectations for him? Is this not a strange move for Verno as well?
I mean, it's strange in the sense that, well, here's where it's not strange. Let's start there because it's a much smaller list. He gets to stay in tier 1, right? That's basically the long and short of it. At the same time, like Leviathan have also just been looking for an Initiator player to replace an attack. So there were maybe other opportunities if he hadn't been dropped with such a little stinky smell around him from NRG. But from Verno's POV, he underperformed at kickoff. He didn't play well at kickoff compared to what we were expecting him to do as like the top tier 2 prospect coming out of Americas. He then played quite poorly overall. Not just like a meh performance. It was like actually quite bad. And then you're going into, even if that was like a particularly off tournament for him, you're now going into a more challenging environment where you're going to have more comms issues. And you're not as familiar with the team. You just haven't had as much time to prac with them because NRG at least were doing a lot in the offseason. So it's Verno's extending his lifetime at the tier 1 level, but he may end up looking like a worse player because of like the circumstances that he's been playing in tier 1, which is weird.
Yeah, and Mimi, let me ask you what.
Sure.
MIBR, they finished 3rd.
Yeah.
But is this actually going to make them that much better, or should a team who's finishing 3rd think I should be trying to improve just a little bit to try and get into definite getting to Masters, or do you worry that this will bring them down into the depths of the mud?
I think if you made 3rd place, unless you have some unless Noswer killed a man or there's some massive internal issues in the team, I think it's
there's a couple steps before that you might
yeah.
consider as well.
One or the other. One or the other.
Nos was just aligning with the profit motives. It was actually more profitable for him to kill the man. Like, you wouldn't understand. He shouldn't be dropped just for moral reasons.
You're right. But if it's not one of those two things, it just reads to me as weird. Because, I mean, both Noswer and Verno underperformed. NRG kind of got dunked on in that tournament. They won their one match, and then fell out of the tournament completely after beating
right
100
next
Thieves.
to each other.
And yeah, look at them. I mean, they have almost the same stats. And I'm
It
not
is a
saying,
very slight
that's
upgrade.
crazy.
yeah. Oh, in half the rounds, he had a 0.01 more VLR rating. So I think we should pick this guy up. But I don't know. I just think that when you have a team that is, you know, Aspas is playing on a multilingual team for all of last year. He's finally on a Brazilian team. He talked so much about getting to play with Naswar's friend, getting to pick out these players from tier 2 that Saucy recommended, and like creating the stream team. And now they drop him for a guy who presumably doesn't speak a lick of Portuguese. And it just feels like you're throwing chaos into the team, right? Like, are you switching to English? Are you translating for him? Did you hear the NRG's guys saying, oh, he didn't calm quite enough in some of these matches, and are like, oh, great, he just won't talk, and he'll
We'll just comment Portuguese still.
Perfect.
I don't know. It just reads to me as super weird, and I can't look at this and think, wow, this is putting them in a much better position than they were in before. I think, if anything, it feels like it should be not a downgrade 1-for-1 in terms of Naswar versus Verno, because remember, he was excellent in Tier 2. He was very hyped. He still has room to be better than what he was in Kickoff. But just in terms of like the team dynamics, it just feels so funky as an outsider.
I just think
Go on.
Oh, I just feel like the one thing where I'm like, I feel like this is something that could have happened is, you know, MIBR, they wanted Naswar out for whatever reason. They wanted a player in. And yeah, we're talking about like Verno not speaking Portuguese or the team having to switch to English, whatever the case might be. But I mean, we all know how difficult it is to get the visas for Brazilian players, and there's nobody around here that just speak Portuguese and it's free. I mean, that's what happened with Crew last year. He just happened to be in the US so they could get him. But if not, then I mean, it would have been something different. So it was like, I guess that was the only option, getting a player from NA, and I mean, for whatever reason.
But then why drop Naswar in the first place?
Who knows?
yeah, but I agree with you, Dryad, that like once you've made the choice to drop Naswar,
sure,
like then you are kind of logically led to picking some NA player, and Verno obviously was one of the best tier 2 players last year, and so you're hoping that improves. That does make sense. Let's and maybe you could tell me, Dryad, do you think a similar thing has happened here with Furia, where they've gone, we're a bigger org than you 2G, so we need a player, so we're just gonna steal one of yours?
These two teams need help, so I don't know what to say. Is this I have no
this
thoughts.
is Prize joining Furia from 2G, and I don't know if any of you know. I would like to know for my fantasy idea as well, because right now as the 2G 5th player, I've just got question mark, question mark, question mark. So does anyone know who's coming in for 2G? I have heard nothing of this sort.
They're going to play 4v5 for now.
Oh,
this Prize just moving from the 12th team in Americas to the 11th team in Americas feels like it's like
yes.
It feels like you're in a 10-man lobby and you hit auto balance teams. And it like changes one player over, and you're like,
climbing the corporate ladder, one rank at a time.
Yeah. Next year he's gonna be playing for EG.
Yeah.
One at a time.
I believe the tweet was that Askia was rumored to be coming in. Now, I can't find a source for this, but I remember reading it while I was looking for sources this morning. I don't know how accurate that is. I think it's just a rumor, but I don't know. But that's the guy that we had talked about previously, like replacing Aspas at one point, I think.
Yeah. And it has listed on VLR that he's on their academy team, so that would just be a straight promotion, which probably does make the most sense. So yes, that would seem perhaps the most logical conclusion.
But
and then Spike
is a duelist, I think.
Well, I mean, I guess.
Sorry, is this not the guy?
Does it matter? Does it matter what 2G play comp wise?
How old is Askia? Is he not the one that's underage, and that's why he's not playing?
I didn't think so, because I thought he was considering tier 1 before.
Spike,
I don't know.
Spike played for them last year, right? And isn't playing because he's still 17.
Yeah, he is.
But will be in stage 2.
Askia is born in 2001 on Wikipedia, so he's like 23.
He's old.
Oh, never mind. I lied.
He's old. He's lost it. But either way, I mean, does this make any difference to Furia and 2G? Does anyone have any hope or expectation for either of these teams?
Well, you know, all of
here we go.
It's important to remember, right? MW0 benched himself. He didn't get cut, allegedly.
Yes.
I mean, that's what the public statements say, is that he benched himself.
Yes.
Do you remember the Reddit post about MW's Initiator utility and talking about how he didn't use a flash for like 90% of the rounds, but they did win whenever he used a flash? I think it was something like they had an 87% win rate when he used a flash in a round playing Breach, but they lost the game because he just didn't use a flash. I think he only used a flash like 5 rounds or something. And then he was now. Here it is. Kurt's found it already.
Funny.
A legendary, genuinely a legendary. Originally tweet by Gio Rigotti, which then got translated and put onto Reddit. But it's MW's a legend, right? He actually is a legend of the Brazilian scene. But if you have him on Initiator or Flex, he's an aggressive Initiator player. He wants to have his rifle out at all times, and playing Sky or something like that, where he could pop flash himself in, made more sense for that. When we were watching him play on Silver and Breach, even if you hadn't gone through the numbers, you could get a gut feeling of like, what? This guy is not comfortable in this role. It looks really awkward, really weird. And then when you see the numbers as well, you're like, oh my God, like he's just not built for this. So getting Prize in should actually be more functional than this, even if his fragging's nowhere near as good. Like, this should be one of the like straightest upgrades, isn't it? Because you're getting someone who couldn't play Initiator for someone who.
But Josh, I can't get excited about Furia. It's wow, they have a.
I mean, you have to remember, because I remember last week when we were talking about Fury, and we're like, "Oh well, they won a game," and then we remembered that it wasn't the Fury players who won a game.
No.
I mean, that just does speak to like the levels here, and I haven't looked at the Americas groups, but I assume that those two are the lowest seeds. They have to be, right, in the two Americas
11 and
groups.
12.
So, you know, I mean, you look at like. I mean, like the problem with these
God
two teams.
help them.
I mean, look at that.
That is brutal.
That is
Oh
a
my
brutal
God.
group, isn't
I
it?
don't think a
Fury.
single one of those matches is winnable.
No.
Cloud9 is maybe win. Lev
No.
got a bit of. No, you're not having Lev.
There's always a 30% chance, but I give them no more than that in any of these games.
I think we'll have to reassess in a couple of weeks, but I think we might be thinking a different tune about the Cloud9 game, mate. Maybe.
Do you think
Okay.
Cloud9 is just
What do you
getting
mean?
blue max?
I just think in a couple of weeks from now, we're going to be thinking more about what's happened in stage 1 than in kickoff.
Yeah.
Sure,
And
but you have to remember Cloud9 is the greatest group stage team in the history of Valorant.
They do tend to do very well in the group stages. yeah,
It's
you are.
still Fury. And
That's all you need to say. You don't need to say any more words. You got the point across
Moving
very well
on.
there.
It's still Furia, and then a cat's anus is on the screen. Like, yep, we get it.
Anyway, yeah, I don't think there's too much else to really say about 2G and Furia. I think they're just gonna probably be very sad come the end of the year, but maybe they'll surprise us. I hope they do. I hope they do for both of them. Shall we move on to actually talking about some games? Some exciting games, I would say. Some not as exciting, but some exciting games. We'll start with one of a game of unknowns, I would say, of two teams. They're the group stage GOATs, as Mimi just called one of them, Cloud9, and a team where will they be complete dog shit like 2024, or will they be the number one team like so many people always predict them to be? Cloud9 versus NRG. Shall we take a look at the picks? Oh,
Wow.
thank
Oh,
God! I'm honestly
good,
so
good,
thankful
good.
this isn't a guarantee, because I was a bit worried there that we were really in potential. Let's start off with the dissenting opinion. Let's go to Dryad. Why will Cloud9 win?
they won the first match this year, and I hope they keep it up. That's
That was the Zeppa God game, if I remember correctly.
Yes, it
where
was.
Zeppa turned into Hulk for a game, and then went, my work here is done.
yeah. I had a feeling that you guys were gonna put Energy because I feel like that's the safe prediction. I think we should expect Energy to win this match, just like we did for the first one. But I don't know. Cloud9 sometimes just get some magic going on. and
Yes, they
Yeah,
do. You're right.
could be.
That is totally
that could be the
fair.
match.
It's totally fair. Why do you not believe in the Cloud9 magic, Mimi?
Yeah. Well, we on this podcast,
After you
love-
call them the group stage GOATs as well.
we love recency bias, right? we love what happened last. We loved the last game. You know, NRG, they lost 1-2 to Crew. They must be worse. They must be terrible. But I want to remember the good times. During Soup, this team was electric. I thought they had a really good meta read coming into the year. They show up, Verno, huge disappointment. But Mata, one of the very good performance from him. Finesse
Verno out back.
Finesse has been humbled as well. And I imagine that boy, that man, that fella, that person has been hitting the aim labs and will surely not be as ass as he was in kickoff in this stage. We also have a shift in the tides, a new meta coming in. You have new agents showing up, and I think Gen.G is one of those teams that I trust to come out with a pretty good read, because honestly, I like their read quite a bit in kickoff. They can't be as bad as they were. C9 was also one of the squads that was kind of struggling, and I gotta favor them in this rematch.
Okay, do you agree with that, Sideshow, that FNS won't be as ass?
We predicted NRG to be an S tier team at the beginning, and I feel like we're now on the HMS Titanic going down with the ship, and we're just still tooting the horn till the very end. No, this team's still gonna make it. I'm just being propelled by hopium. The hope is gonna get us through the iceberg, guys. I think I agree with Mimi's assessment, though. Finesse is not going to have a generationally bad tournament again. He's normally bad, but he's not Pi Day every day kind of bad. And I think he's going to pick it back up.
Okay. You look like you desperately don't want to say any more because you might convince yourself that you're wrong. But
yeah, I mean,
Josh, stop thinking.
I think the bounce back is going to happen. I think that NRG played really badly during that event. I think Ethan in particular is dodging a lot of the
yes, I agree.
the kind of flack for this, but Som and Mada were just doing everything they possibly could.
Yeah.
Everyone's mad about Finesse not being able to hit a shot. Everyone's looking at Verno as being a problem because they cut him. But Ethan has also got to step things up pretty heavily, because that was not the EG Ethan. That was a shadow. So I'm just hoping it was a bad tournament from them.
Can I just quickly ask, because we are going to do the bold predictions of who we think will win it. I hope no one has put NRG. I really want to know where you think NRG, will they go to Toronto? Are they just a playoff team that doesn't make it? Are they a flame out? No, it's all going to capitulate like last year's NRG? What do you think is the most likely?
I feel like the safest bet is they are a playoff team that doesn't make it. But they have proven they have a fucking ridiculous range. Our data points thus far this year are smurfing on everyone in Soup and looking like a husk of a team in kickoff. So, dude, I hope they're more like Soup Gen.G, but it's tough to say at this point.
I can guarantee they're getting at least one win, and then from there,
is that Furia?
Yeah, over Furia. You actually only need to beat one more team, and you're through to playoffs. As long as you can guarantee you're better than Furia, which even the biggest NRG haters got to have them above Furia, don't they? Then you're just picking one other team to try to win against.
I think it's very likely they start 2-0. So, me saying...
Even though you are the one who picked C9. So you don't think it's that likely, because you think they're going 0-1.
I'm okay being the sacrifice, so it's not a guarantee.
Yes, this would be a terrible guarantee.
Yeah.
This would be a very bad guarantee. But okay, let's move on then to our next game, which is I think a banger game, an absolute banger. I think Crew versus Loud. Let's see.
For the third time this year.
Whoa!
No, that's a bad idea.
No.
That's a very bad idea.
No,
This is not a guarantee.
No.
Okay, well.
Well, I do think it's a guarantee.
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay.
Why is it a guarantee?
Dryad, apart from your obvious bias, why is this a guarantee?
Not biased, just real.
What color is the light in the background? Just really quick, Dan.
It's not even. It's orange, Mimi.
NRG orange.
And yeah, you didn't pick NRG, did
orange.
you?
Interesting.
Good thing I changed my hair just for this, so I can say that I'm not biased. Well, let's not talk about the recency. I just think Crew. And I did not put it, and I'm letting you know. Maybe I don't say it yet. But I think they are a top 3 contender. Like very likely to make it to Masters too. They are insanely good. We saw how much they stepped it up towards the end, and that was when Kesnet was sick. For the past 2 matches that they played, he was sick and he was not underperforming, but he was doing okay compared to what he's used to. Adverso is feeling so much better, like he's bringing so much energy to the team. And then on top of that, you talk about the things that they've been bringing. I think it's just a very, very good team that should be consistent throughout the year. I don't see why not. Also, I see VCT scrims and they look pretty good. So,
I mean, we all agree apparently because we all picked Crew. So you don't need to make that much of a case for.
But you gotta,
for Crew
you
in
have
general,
to make a case for it being a guarantee.
Yeah,
well,
that's my worry.
They're just so, like, it's not even about loud.
But don't
it's
you
just
think
Crew are so good right now.
Okay, I mean, Sideshow, would you be willing to change? Does anyone want to change? Clearly, Dryad doesn't, but would anyone think about it? Mimi, not for Vicky, honey.
For Vicky, honey. What? Why won't you? Is my first ask. I know
Great
you're in your
point.
host man mode, but if you're trying to push all of us to do something else, I don't want to jump off a cliff for a man who wouldn't jump himself. You know?
Yeah, you jump first, and then we'll think about it.
Yeah.
It's a guarantee.
How about we all jump? How about that? How about we tie ourselves
all
together
3 of us
and jump?
We do a suicide pact to go
I'll
after
fucking
the loud
do it.
prediction.
Don't make me do it.
I think this is just part of the flawed concept of predicting. We all believe that Crew are the favorites. We just don't think they're very heavy favorites.
You're right. You're absolutely right, Sideshow.
We're stuck in a
thanks for
binomial
watching
world.
Plat Chat. What episode is this? Thanks for watching Plat Chat, episode 209. Sorry, we were going to do predictions, but Sideshow has correctly pointed out that it's all meaningless and doesn't make any fucking sense. Bye.
I just mean we are all like, I don't know, 60-40? I would say I'm 60-40 for Crew. Something like that.
Change me. Change me.
I
Change
don't
me.
know why. What is it about Loud that makes this
Loud.
match-
Did you watch Loud?
It's Dejazine's op.
The
That's what
Jazine
it
was
is for me.
good.
Okay.
Kawanzine is good.
Yes. No, it's not that they're bad, but I think in this match, this is a clear winner. I think Loud against other teams, they have a better chance.
The one time that, well, I mean, they've only played each other twice, right? But the time that Loud won, Dejazine was feasting with the operator. He just absolutely went bonkers and nobody on Crew could stop him. I'm going to assume that doesn't happen again, but the reason that I can't say it's a guarantee is because it could. Like, Dejazine has been playing that well.
Yeah, he's good.
But I think 3 of us going Crew is more representative.
Yes.
Yeah, but also it still counts toward the guarantee record, by the way.
What?
The only
That's
time it doesn't is if I
fraudulent,
make a mistake.
No,
Did you guys pick
that's
it?
real. That's so real, Kurt.
Fine, get me back on
That makes
Crew then.
sense.
Get me back on
After all
Crew.
that?
What's the point? Swapping just means nothing now, doesn't it? You've just got it tabulated behind the scenes. The fucking Wizard of Oz over here. Get me back on Crew.
Kurt really is the Wizard of Oz. That's an amazing analogy.
Well, you're letting other people influence your prediction. These are your genuine predictions.
No, but I'm saying I've already. Well, yeah, but you're saying you can't ever change your mind.
Wow.
That's not what
Deep.
he's saying. You can't
That's
change
what he
a
is
guarantee.
saying, Mimi.
A guarantee is a
why are you on
is
his
a
side?
sanctified agreement.
We're fighting for our right to be
between
able to
this-
change our pick, Mimi, and you're
between
just
this
giving him the
podcast
power.
and God.
Fine, whatever. Crew are gonna
you
win.
can change your
It's-
mind, but next
Oh.
week you can.
Next week you can change your mind.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
sure.
okay.
Next
We're
week I'll
gonna
tell
win.
you who's won Crew Loud. I'll get it right that time. Yeah, let's just move on. Let's move on to a game that we can't get wrong. G2 versus Furia. Smile, everyone. Now, this one I don't think we would have any qualms about. I think people will be happy with this. My question is going to be to you, Sideshow, though, as you were asking for percentages earlier on. You're bringing up the baller minimum guarantee percentage. This is going to be the test of this one. What percentage would you actually give Furia in this game?
3. I think the chances of G2 being upset are lower than a lot of other teams because of the style that they play. There hasn't been a significant meta shift. The maps... Furia did used to enjoy playing Icebox. Were G2 bad on Ascent? A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. Maybe I'll boost it up to like
6.
10. I'll give them a
Okay,
10%
10.
chance. I think Furia could win 1 in 10 matches against them, and it would still be like, we'd be like, oh my god, wow, they did it that one time. And I think it would be something to do with the map vetoes getting, like, becoming a bit weird.
Okay. Does any disagrees with that, Mimi?
Nah, I'm on board with the big 3%, you know. There is a history of teams returning from doing well internationally and falling to bits regionally, but it's against it's Furia, and I can't even begin to entertain the thing. We have so limited few seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, lives, years to live, and spending any more talking about the chances Furia has in this game. There's better things to be done.
I mean, what I would say is, we could put G2 against any team, and I think we would guarantee it.
Ooh, yeah, but
Yes.
would we feel good about the guarantee? It might be like a Crew Loud kind of situation.
What team
Yeah,
would
but
it
we
be
have no
Crew Loud?
choice once we did it. We'd do it blind, and then as Kurt has provided, we'd have no choice.
They did go to 5 against Sen in the finals, so like it's not like they're unbeatable in Americas.
Sure.
Sure, they still won.
Yeah, they did still win. Yeah.
Any hope for Furia, Dryad? Can we just move past this quickly?
No hope.
Well, I'd just like to put a prayer out for Prize. He's gone from 2G getting shit on to now his first game for Furia is going to be G2.
That's
Also,
rough,
just
isn't it?
one thing in general, and not too much about this match, but like G2 is the most consistent team that we've had for like a full year now. I mean, yeah, sure, they're not winning the trophies, but they're making it to the grand finals, like making it far in the like internationally and like regionally. So yeah, there's that argument that teams might come after an international and like kind of fall off a little bit, but I don't think that's the case for them. I think they'll be fine.
Okay, let's move on to a much more interesting game, I think. This one might be a guarantee. MIBR versus Lev. Will it be?
What did I put?
I couldn't remember either, and
Wow.
it's
Oh
my
not
God.
a guarantee.
I
really
expected
go
it to
for
be
Lev?
3-1 or
Yeah, I'm
4-0.
kind of shocked I went for Lev as well.
What was I smoking going for Lev here? I guess it is.
I mean, tell us, Josh. Figure out
Yeah,
what you
let's
were
start there,
smoking.
Josh. What were you smoking? Why did you go for Lev? Start with what you were smoking.
What was I thinking here? I must have been putting a lot of weight on the fact that I think that MIBR overperformed at kickoff, and they have just had a roster change, and Verno
Yeah, it's all
being
coming
added
back
is
to
weird.
me as well.
No, but that also, I'm not even on board with my own rationale there, because I didn't like what Leviathan were particularly doing. Didn't they only beat Furia? Like was that the only team that they beat? Because they got a bye through the bracket, and then I seem to remember them beating Furia and maybe nobody else.
They definitely beat Furia.
Yes,
and
they
then
only
did lose.
They got a bye, beat
They
Furia, and
also
then
lost
bombed out
MIBR.
against G2 and MIBR. Now, it wasn't a terrible game against MIBR. They could have won. But they've also made a roster change. And it's... I mean, Rossi's a good individual player. I feel like this is a bit of an unknown kind of coin flip game, especially considering how close it was at kickoff. But I'm not confident about my pick
The
of
more
Leviathan.
I
I
think
don't
about
remember
it,
doing
the
this.
closer I think it is. Like, I don't really have a lot of faith in the MIBR roster move. Like, I think I have more faith in the move for Leviathan, and it was close the first time anyways. Like, this might be an honest 2-2. Like, I feel like it's like
Yeah.
55-45, maybe.
Well, for me, Aspas against his old team.
Yeah.
That's
it.
actually like it is one of the players where I don't know, I feel like I see it in his face when he's playing. Like he wants to win so bad against Lev, and I think I mean, how many matches have we seen where Aspas is just carrying pretty hard? I feel like it could be one of those, even if they're still getting used to the roster changes, they're still getting used to like whatever they're gonna play, because I feel like these two teams meta wise, they didn't really do anything crazy. So sometimes it really comes down to Aspas. And
I want to ask you, Dryad,
okay with
about
that.
Lev, though. I want to get your thoughts on Lev, because my worry for them is you've just changed Natank for Rossi. Natank, if he was still on the team, could play Raze, and flex onto that in certain situations. Whereas now you would assume that, like, unless King IGLs and plays Duelist, which I think is unlikely.
No, that's very
you think
likely.
that's what's going to happen? You think that's going to happen?
First year of VCT, and then before that, like before partnership and everything, he was a race player, and he was IGLing and playing race. So when I saw them possibly playing this composition. Yeah, that's. Oh yeah, that's true. No, yeah. So that's what I thought they were gonna do if they were gonna play double duelist or an extra race that they needed. I feel like it's still likely, and he.
Okay. My question would be though, what about Yoru? What about Yoru? Because we're seeing a lot of Yoru. Yoru is quite meta. Do I trust Demon 1 to play Yoru? King hasn't played Yoru as far as
he
did,
I'm aware. Didn't he? Demon 1.
Did he play Yoru?
Guess.
Did he play Yoru? I don't remember.
Did he? I feel like he did at some point, but I don't know if it was
any good. Well, either way, that's my big question for Lev, is if they do go, so either you've got King IGLing playing Raze, maybe on like Fracture or whatever, right? And you could see that. But that might lead to some other problems. But if not, then you've got Demon 1. Ooh.
Right, so this is why we don't remember it, is because it was a 13-5 loss to G2.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it did happen, so...
It did happen.
Yeah.
So I guess he is going to play Yoru.
Every map.
Why not? Could they do something where Tex played Duelist for them?
Yes.
And I'm trying to think.
Schrodinger's Duelist this
picks
team.
Up
Josh, it's America.
Sentinel?
Anything's possible.
Com plays Sentinel, maybe? Rossi.
Oh, yeah, Com Senti.
Com plays Raze, and then Tex
no,
Initiator.
Papa Com plays Raze.
Well, I think Lev are a super interesting team, right? Like, I might ask you the NRG question for Lev as well. Like, does anyone have any hope that like they can go to Masters? Like, what chance would you give them at like actually, going pretty, doing pretty well in Americas?
I think they would have to, essentially, it would have to be alchemical magic, and I don't mean that in the sense of it's impossible. I mean that because they're putting together so many different ideas and so many different players and styles and roles that they would just have to hit on the like exact right formula for it all to come together. And then they do actually have to play equality to be able to do something special. But it would just all there's so many moving pieces with this team that feel like they would have to align for success. You have to get Demon 1 on a roll with Duelist that he feels super confident on. Or you have to move him over onto, he has to play Sentinel for the first time, or he has to play Smokes for the team, and you move King around. And like all of these roles have to find spots where everyone works, not just one player, for them to seriously go on a run where they could make a Masters event. And it just seems unlikely. It's not impossible, but it just feels unlikely.
But I feel like it's, like the players are, a lot of them are really flexible and they played a bunch of roles in the past. But I don't know, for example, Tex, yeah, sure, he can play Duelist, but why would I put him not on Sentinel? He's like one of the best Sentinels that we have.
Dryad, is it more likely that Crew don't make it to Toronto or Lev make it?
I think Crew's more likely to make it. But I also want to watch like one Lev game and then see how it's looking. Like I don't, because it's hard to tell. Like I feel like watching them playing kickoff was like watching and listening to King during the interviews. It was like he wanted to do so much more and they just couldn't. Like there was the things that they wanted to do were not working out, whatever it was, like with their compositions or like internally, whatever, just was not working out. And that's the first time that I get that answer from him. Like sometimes, you played bad and you just didn't play a game, that's it. Or like you played well and then you're proving it as they did last year. But it seems like, I don't know, they were like frustrated because of what was going on.
My big thing today is to not get caught in the kickoff doom spiral. When we were doing our tier list of every team in the world, we were happy about maybe 5 teams, and then we were just in a spiral of depression about every other team in the world. And I'm here to break it to you that at the end of the day, these are professional Valorant players getting paid at least $50,000, likely much, much more a year to play this fucking game. And I guarantee the vast majority of these teams are going to be nowhere near as heinous as they were in kickoff. There's always teams that show up and surprise and make an international event. It happens all the time. And in my mind, there are 8 teams in Americas that are likely to make playoffs that could be in the running for like the second 2 slots besides G2, who I think is a shoe-in to make it to Toronto. And in my mind, Lev is one of those teams that is like pretty likely to make playoffs. Maybe they can make Toronto if they go on a good run. At the end of the day, they have some crazy good players. If they get Jalen, if they find the right meta read, like it is very, very possible. So I don't want to like overly doom and gloom. Like for me, both Lev and MIBR are in like a similar place in my mind with expectations for the stage.
Okay, so Mimi thinks that everyone's gonna be great. Let's go to the game.
Oh, I don't think that. I think most of these
Let's test that theory with
ass.
2G versus EG, shall we? Whoa! Whoa! What a picture! Wow!
I like that
That was so quick! Guarantee! Go!
I didn't even do that on purpose.
But it honestly works. People will see that screenshot. They'll know what we meant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll know. Just
But
show
also,
the game.
this is the exact opposite of what you were talking about with G2.
Yeah.
Any team that
Any
plays
team.
against 2G, we are going to guarantee
Would we
them.
guarantee Fury against 2G?
Yes.
No.
We haven't seen it happen, have we? We've only seen old.
I mean, they won't play each other, so it wouldn't happen. But
we've
well,
only
they might
seen
happen in
other
stage
Fury,
2.
though.
But
You know
what
what I mean?
you think?
Like-
Get the sub. Get the sub.
well, if they get the subs in, yeah, I'll give that a guarantee.
Okay.
But like,
okay.
we wouldn't guarantee EG against any other team in the league, would we?
No.
No.
Maybe Furia. Maybe.
Furia. I would guarantee them against Furia.
I don't think I would.
No,
I would
way.
give you my signed, delivered
don't.
message to guarantee that game.
But that shows you how bad we are on 2G. That we're just like
But that's
anyone could
totally
rock
A
on.
warranted,
good
I think.
reason.
Yeah, totally warranted. Like if you watch them, and also, I mean, yeah, we don't fully know who their fifth is going to be, I guess. But like, they were horrifically bad, like horrifically bad. Like there is a level of losing that, I mean, like they're just getting beat down. I mean, by a squad that is literally put together last minute and beats them. But then also like in their other games, what was their other game? Who was it against? Who got lucky? Who drew the lucky lot? It was Crew. Who got their free pass?
Oh yeah.
13-2,
Yes.
13-3. Like that you honestly don't see a scoreline like that very often in Tier 1 Valorant anymore. Like you don't see this is a scoreline from like 2021.
They got
This is a
17
crazy
rounds.
Raccoons game.
They got 17
Yeah.
rounds across 4 maps.
Yeah.
For
That's
context,
worse than Trace at Bangkok.
yeah, that's
We
what
got
I was about to
20.
say.
By quite a bit.
20? Something like that.
24, I think.
Yeah, so quite
they
a bit
tied
worse.
Crazy Raccoons.
And one of them is against a essentially Tier 2 team who's come in from the cold. I mean, that is very rough.
Not even a Tier 2 team. Like, Tier 2 players that were not a team.
Yes. Yes. Let's talk about EG though. Let's flip the coin. EG. We don't see him as too high on EG. Is there any hope that they might turn it around, Sideshow? They don't play Phoenix?
What is turning it around? Is it making
I would
playoffs for this
say
squad?
let's take a look at their game, Scott. Who have they got in their group?
They've got
So-
a slightly easier group than the other one, I would say.
It's the easier group.
They
So
have to beat, like, Crew, Loud, 100 Thieves.
Is
though.
it how possible is it for them to, let's say, finish third in this group?
I think very tough still. I still
Okay.
think really tough because the teams that are most beatable, right? We've got them guaranteed against 2G. They should be able to beat 2G, which puts them at 4th in the group. So then it's can they overtake somebody else? Well, who? I think maybe we're looking at Loud, for example, could be a possibility. At the beginning of the year, we were power ranking both of these teams around the same kind of level. But that was because we weren't really big on the idea of Loud working well as a team. And as it happens, they just played better on an individual level. And I struggle to think that isn't going to be the same again. Like, I think that Loud are going to have more opportunities to flex their experience than EG are. EG have got some decent players on the roster, but I think players from Loud, like Dejazine, like Cowanzine as well, are going to be able to get them upset wins in spots where the EG team struggles a little more, I think. Is it possible that they could get third? Yeah, but I think it'd be an uphill battle.
Okay. Anyone else want to talk EG? Or shall we move on to a juicy game?
think Josh summed it up.
I'm getting a bunch of shaking heads. No, let's get on to
Let's juice it up, TMV.
Let's fucking go! Match of the week, baby! Let's fucking go! It's fucking El Cloutico! It's Sentinels! It's 100 Thieves! Oh, it's not a guarantee for Sen! The bold one has gone for 100 Thieves. The other three of us have all picked Sentinels. Mr. Josh Sideshow Wilkinson, why the fuck have you picked 100 Thieves?
I thought that Sentinels played quite poorly in Bangkok, not just based on their opposition, but just as an overall kind of picture of their game, it was quite bad. I think a lot of people were thinking, because Sentinels played well against MIBR and they played well in the grand finals, that indicated an upward trajectory. Like they were just going to keep linearly improving over time. And instead, I think it was just a good day for them, like a good couple of days. And I think the average of what we've seen from Sentinels is quite a bit lower than they played in MIBR G2 games. So I think that is actually the exception, is that like better performance. And I think probably what you're going to get from them is more like what you saw at the very beginning of kickoff, where they were able to get wins, but it was like a little difficult for them. Now, having said this, one of the wins that they got that was a little difficult for them was against 100 Thieves. So I'm not saying that this is going to be an easy match by any means. I think it's still, even if Sentinels are not playing well, it's still going to be a pretty even game between the two. But I think 100 Thieves, because they didn't travel to Bangkok, because they have more time to tackle the meta from a, like, you know, we're looking at other teams, picking up what we want to do, looking at the maps that are in the pool, adjusting to what we want to play on them. I think they should be better equipped than Sentinels that is coming back a little more like rough around the edges from Masters.
Okay, wonderful. And
Change my vote.
Wow, I was about to
I was on the fence about this game. I was like slightly leaning towards Sen, but I actually I mess with what Josh is bringing up. I think the big thing for me also is like the not having to have played Bangkok, not having to have traveled buff, and actually like having time to practice. I actually think they were cooking with some of their stuff in kickoff. I think people remembered it a little bit less. Like I liked their split where they were like bringing back the Sage they used to play a couple years ago, bringing that around with like Breach Teo ideas. I thought that was pretty cool. I think with Waylay coming in, holy shit! If they put Asuna on Waylay, I think he is gonna cook on that agent.
Yes.
Well, why are you laughing? Do you not think that's probable?
I just think Waylay's been kind of poo. I just don't believe.
But I
in
think
Waylay.
they might try it.
Yeah,
I think if there was a team to try it, if they play, I think if you play like Ascent, I think Waylay's going to be pretty good there, and I think Asuna would be pretty sick on that agent. Maybe I'm coping a little bit, but I do actually, I don't think Waylay's amazing, but I think she'll be playable.
I think it can work.
Maps.
I mean, the Neon for them this year was working, and that was something that they talked about. It was like, we just want to figure out what like works for us specifically, and like Asuna and Neon was good. So I think I feel the same way. Like, I feel like Waylay, yeah, sure, is not, you know, like every team's gonna play it. Most teams, I feel like, are not gonna play the Waylay, but Asuna, like, is one of those that I see, like, very likely that they could kind of work around it for some maps.
Yeah, but Dryad, tell me why these two are stupid, and tell me why they're going against.
You don't have to attack our
Cloud.
characters. You could just tell us why Sen's
All right,
better.
just looked at Sideshow and just the first word that came to mind.
Involuntary.
I was thinking about putting 100 Thieves as well, actually. Like, I feel like they...
Am I just gonna end up on my own?
No,
just gonna slowly switch.
it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. I just feel like these two have some of the best coaching staffs in Americas, and it kind of depends on what they've been able to do for Sentinels. I'm just a little worried about Sentinels. I think that's my thing. I think they're very good. I feel like obviously they've proven it in the past. But yeah, like Josh was saying, like towards Bangkok, they were just seems like struggling a lot, and I don't know if they've been able to reset for long enough. I mean, that doesn't take away from the fact that actually they could have had a really good reset. They could be looking at different compositions, different ideas that they want to bring. So, it just depending on what Sentinels we're gonna see at the beginning. I hope they had a good reset couple days, because I mean, Gen.G was in Bangkok until the end, right? Because he was doing the So,
Yeah, they did.
Two
Yeah, he was
weeks,
doing the show
maybe?
match. Yeah.
Yeah, 2
Oh
weeks.
yeah, so you're saying that they're cooked because John has been left in Bangkok. They took the flight. John fucking missed his flight. Fuck, I got to play in the show match, I guess, and so they're gonna be fucked. All makes
Didn't
sense.
John also lose the show match?
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, I blame Tense.
tragic.
Tense isn't on it. So, I think
can
they'll be
get away
fine.
with that.
I've picked Sentinels because, I mean, I would ask the people who think 100 Thieves are gonna win. Are you not worried about Boostio dropping 3 kills?
I bring up my same points I did for Finesse. Boostio is not normally that much of a stinky little piggy in the server. He's normally actually looking all right. Like he's not a mad frag in IGL. He was when EG went on their run in 2023. Especially at Champs, he was like frying people actually. But normally he's like kind of low frag in IGL. But it normally doesn't matter as much for them. I do still have a lot of concerns about 100 Thieves like role stuff though, because Boostio is trying to play more Initiator rather than what he was doing for EG, where he's playing mostly Sentient. And now that the meta contains 2 jet maps in Ascent and Icebox, I don't know what like Cryo Asuna are doing.
Jet,
So
probably.
yeah, there's so many
Asuna
questions. There really
Initiator,
are.
Yeah, that's definitely a concern. I do think from the Sen perspective, I think that video from Zekken where he's telling off the rest of the team and, being like, don't worry guys, I was shit too, but you were also shit. I think he's just gonna carry them this game. I think he's gonna come in with a fire and a passion and just destroy them. And yes, there were moments where Sen, obviously, the Team Liquid 13-1, they are horrendously bad. But I do still want to point out that had they won in overtime on that second map versus Team Liquid, that never happens. And maybe I thought, maybe then they lose the next game to whoever, G2, whatever, but then we don't think as bad about Sen and we think, oh, actually, they didn't do too bad.
But it did happen.
It did happen, but I think that was, they hit the floor. They hit their absolute floor. They're not going to play at their absolute floor here. The crowd is going to be with them as it always is in Americas. And I think that they will find a way. Although I do accept that it could be close, and it is also possible they might still be shit if they have taken time off, and John has just been chilling in Thailand. I don't know.
The season being elongated helps Sentinels, by the way. Like my narrative about the teams coming back from Masters and not having as much time, it's not that bad. They've still got 3 weeks of prep.
Sorry, I was trying to turn on a light, but it didn't work. Anyway, let's move on to talking about who the stage 1 winner is going to be. Dryad already kind of maybe secretly leaked who she thinks. No?
No.
Wow, well, let's find out who it is then, Kurt. Drop the thing. Take this. I don't know. Do it.
Great.
Oh, take the picture.
What do you mean no? What do you mean no? You
Take
cannot.
the picture.
No one can tell me this isn't a guarantee. No one can tell me that the most probable outcome is G2 winning. By
Yes.
far, the most
Yes.
probable outcome is
It should
G2
be.
winning, and therefore it's a guarantee.
I would say actually across any region, it's the most.
It's the most
likely.
guaranteed guarantee.
Well, maybe Vitality would be in EMEA. I don't know, but I feel better. I think
Not if
about
they drop
G2.
tracks. That
Well,
could create
they haven't.
some...
They haven't yet.
Oh, they haven't yet. But even the fact that it's a rumor, apparently, they hate each other. We know this. Anyway, G2. I mean, yeah, what that is an interesting question though, because in these kind of things, what percentage do G2 have to win stage 1? Because they're when you're doing it against literally every other team, statistically that means that there is a lot less chance. But this is just simply saying that G2 are so good that still they must be the best team. Well, I guess there's 2 questions. 1, how much doubt is there in your mind that G2 will win it? And 2, who would actually be the team to challenge? Because I mean, most people probably say Sentinels, but 2 of you have just picked against Sentinels to even win their first game. So who would even challenge them?
Hear me
Dan,
out.
It's
if
going to be
you
Alexander
say a
the
team-
Grating this shit
if you
crying
say a
down the
team-
hills because they've conquered it all.
It starts with K and ends with U. I'm gonna
Hear me out.
disconnect from the call.
Okay, what if I don't say it, but come out?
She's going to say Visa Crew.
Exactly. Okay. I think it's likely. I think
What is likely, Dan?
they can't. Well, they just got
Who's
top
that?
4, right?
Who?
Who?
MIBR?
What team?
Top
Sorry.
four.
Is it my MIBR?
She's gone. She's gone. I'm afraid we lost her. You lost her immediately by going for crew. Damn.
Wow. You can
I
still
don't
talk.
know what
Why
to
do crew?
say.
Go
It's
on.
just likely. Let's think about the teams that are in the top 4, right? So we got G2, Sentinels. We talked about we're struggling a little bit in Bangkok. Maybe they'll recover and they'll be really good, and then we'll see them in the finals. MIBR, they just made some roster changes, and I feel like with or without them, they're still very dependent on Aspas for so many rounds, so many games. That I think people can start figuring that out, and they have been. And then last one is crew. And what is the problem with crew? I mean, we talked about roster changes. We talked about teams struggling for international events, not having enough time to prep. Crew has had all these time to prep, like about a month. They were good. They were very consistent. And I feel like now they're going to be even better with the time that they've had, with Adverso actually adjusting to the team better. The roles make sense, like everything makes sense. So why wouldn't they be good? Like why?
No, I love that from you. I agree completely. I think they are one of the more likely America's teams to make Bangkok, but I don't think they're
Bangkok?
winning or
Toronto.
Toronto.
We're going
But
back
I
to Bangkok,
don't-
folks.
John's still there, calling everyone.
No, but I
Come
don't.
back.
I can agree with that, but I think it is a bridge too far to predict them over G2 to win the league.
I wouldn't do that.
But
But
to be
I
fair,
don't think it's
Dryad
impossible.
literally has not done that.
Nothing's
She has
impossible. I
picked-
mean,
she has picked G2.
I could
So
sprout
she agrees
wings
with you.
tomorrow. Who's to say? Like,
Well, no, that,
No, I think you're being
that's
disingenuous
not
here,
possible.
Mimi, because I look at crew. If you look at crew's group,
yeah.
like if and you picked against Sentinels. Let's remember this.
Yes, I did.
I think it's
G2,
very
Crew
possible
might win that group.
Crew might win
I
that
agree.
group.
But
If they win that group, they
I'm
get a
not
bye
saying
in
they
the
won't make
playoffs.
Bangkok.
If they get a bye in the playoffs, they're almost
Toronto.
there.
I won't. I'm not saying they won't make Toronto. I think it's actually pretty likely they make Toronto. I'm saying
But
they're
they just
not
need
gonna,
to win
they're not,
one
they're
one
not
little
gonna win.
game.
But then they have to have yes to make Toronto. I'm saying they can.
No,
I
to
agree
beat G2, if they get to the grand final, it's just one game.
Yeah.
just one game.
It's just one
Just one
game.
game.
That's been true of every other team in America that's played G2 thus far. And it hasn't worked out for any
Would
of
you
them.
take Mimi? Would you take G2 against the entire field? Do you think G2 have a more than 50% chance of winning?
50?
Yeah, like okay, if you have to place a
Yeah.
bet,
Okay, on every
is it
single
G2
team I put
or
odds.
is it any other team? No, you get to pick between G2 or any other
Everyone
team,
else.
and I'm giving you even odds, right? Whatever you pick, I'll pick the other. Do you
Mhm.
want to go for G2?
Yes, I do.
Right?
Would you
Because
take that, Sideshow?
I don't think I would take G2 against the field, but only by a fraction. But it's because there's so
I
much
agree.
unknowns about some of the other teams. Like
Sure.
we don't
True.
know whether teams
Well,
like NRG or 100 Thieves are going to.
But I mean, remember, I was telling that earlier. I believe that. I agree with you. I think Crew could make Toronto. I think NRG and 100 Thieves are probably going to have a turnaround. But I still take G2 against the field. Not by a ton. I don't think there's a 100% guarantee. I don't think they're going to stomp. But I just think, like, they are still a step ahead than what the rest of Americas has showed. And even with time, I think they're at least going to be on pace with the rest of Americas and likely still better.
Let me ask you, Josh, who would be your team? Who would be top of your list to upset G2? What do you think is the most likely?
Well, I suppose that's a good thing about having to pick the field is that actually you just are
but
hoping
I'm
that
asking
like
you a
the
different
birds
question
take down
now.
the
Look at
airplane.
this politician. Fucking
Well,
answer the question.
Okay, if I'm going to answer the question properly, I think it's important that we take the context of all that's gone before us. We haven't just fallen out of coconut trees, you know. I think what I would go for is probably some kind of resurgence from a team that's just made a roster move that we're not paying that much attention to. I think the most likely outcome is that they get upset by somebody like an NRG bounce back, like a 100 Thieves that has anti-stratted some kind of specific read on G2 and plays like super high tempo like Kang did when they beat them on Fracture, or maybe some kind of like MIBR Verno just has a god game randomly or something. I don't know. Like something weird like that would have to happen. I'm not saying that there is a single team that I believe in, but the sum total of weird events.
You didn't even mention Sentinels,
You didn't even mention Crew.
Yeah.
who lost 3-2 in a grand final to them.
Because I think Sentinels and Crew are the most obvious examples.
Okay.
Those are the teams that could just like, if they had a great day, they could just win kind of straight up in a close game against G2. But I
E1
think
style.
more likely it's like some weird shit we don't see coming.
Okay. Okay, well, I mean, I think we're perfectly fair, and I know some people will say, "Oh, you really give reasons for G2," because we don't need to, really, do we?
No,
Because
the
everyone,
best team in the world.
everyone believes in G2. But with that in mind, let's move on to the final and most important segment of every Plat Chat episode, Wyatt's Weekly Award.
It's Wyatt's Weekly Award.
Now, I didn't think about this, but now I'm hosting, so do I have to give it out, or did you already have one, Josh, that you
No,
thought
you
about?
have to give it out. You have to decide now. You get put in the same situation that I'm
Fucking
always put
hell.
in.
Why? Do you not? Oh, so you're never prepared? You never have an answer for
The
this? You always just go
the
off
only
dome?
time I'm ever prepared is if Kurt has already prepared. I'm never prepared.
Oh,
for
okay,
this
well, I'll
segment.
ask Kurt then. Kurt, do you have an answer?
Nope, I didn't make one this week. You have one
Fuck
job,
me.
TMV. What is it?
Okay, my Wyatt's Weekly Award is going to go to...
I've
The
got one. If
slower
you don't.
rise
No, Mimi. I'm in the chair now. Although if
He's
you want to type it to me
he's
on
enjoying
Discord,
the
I would be
power.
greatly appreciated.
Mine has nothing to do with Valorant. So if you have something better, then
Okay, I'm gonna give it to fucking me. For
Oh,
creating
Jesus
Valorant.
No.
No, I'll tell you
the
who I'll give it
blind
to.
nepotism.
Is that nepotism when it's you?
Yeah, I think so. You're the closest family you have. You're literally 100% genetically the same as yourself.
That's true.
It's the most nepo baby you could be is if
so
you put
what's the
yourself in
sell
positions.
for yourself?
I'm creating a game that is going to
Are you Saw?
revolutionize the way people enjoy Valorant fantasy esports. It's going to be great, and you should all sign up. And yeah, the ad.
You
This is
basically
all
just
this is
got
all
a
just
second
one big
ad
ad.
read. This is bullshit.
It's just all one big ad. One big ad. No, I don't know. Come on, Mimi. Who do you want to give?
Are
it to?
you fantasy
And I'll-
Valorant assistant at gmail.com?
No. Why? Have you emailed them?
No, someone emailed me about fantasy Valorant. Is that you?
No.
Oh,
Is there a
competitors already.
competing
Let
fantasy
them
Valorant?
compete.
Somebody
Let them
was talking to
compete.
me about it too. I'm like, what are you?
Yeah, I got this email
Let
and I was
them-
like,
yeah,
is this TMV or
No, it's not me.
Okay.
So is that your
well, you have
weekly award
competitors
winner?
already.
Is that your weekly award?
To the people who emailed me? No, I didn't reply to their email. I was going to
Oh.
give mine to the Czech Republic.
Okay.
Why to the
explain.
Czech Republic?
I mean, they've just made some great games. I finished Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 this week. I played
Right.
60 hours in 2 weeks. It was one of the greatest games I've ever played. And Arma 3 is like my favorite game of all time. And they were both from Czech developers. And I just,
You know
I never,
what? No,
I never
no.
really
This
thought about
idea. No, it's a terrible idea. We're giving it to Doom Bros. He's back on Fnatic. Doom Bros is winning the Wyatt's
Dude,
Weekly Award.
the Czech
He's
Republic.
back on Fnatic.
He's signed for Fnatic. Not back on Fnatic, but he's signed as
he-
their
Brother,
assistant coach.
was
Brother,
signed.
he just had to drop out of Fnatic for health reasons while we were doing this episode.
What?
Yeah,
Is that true?
Wait, what?
yeah.
There's no way.
What?
Is that
Yes.
true?
Kurt was in the chat like, "Oh, we're gonna push it to next week," and then you've just you've just tried to give him the award for a team he's not even part of anymore.
Well, he is. He's, I think, but like, not really.
Not really. He's not working as
Oh,
an
okay.
assistant coach, but it was his decision. Like he's just got health problems. He tweeted about it afterwards himself.
Oh, I have
well,
another one.
There we go.
All right, this is the
Suggestion.
final one.
Final one.
High Park is back. He captured his
Park,
first
thank
game in a
you.
long time.
High
That's a
Park is the
legitimate good
winner.
one.
High
That's a
Park
good
is
one.
the winner. Congratulations, Mimi. Good choice. Thank you all for watching Plat Chat episode 209. What a glorious end to this episode. Thank you, Dryad. Thank you, Mimi. Thank you, Sideshow. Thank you, Kurt. And have a good week, everyone.
Thank you to Dryad's
Goodbye.
cat.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you,
Bye.
Cat.